River County Commission meeting will please come to order. This is the April the 29th meeting. We have a special treat today. Stan will do our invocation, and then we will have the Indian River County Fire Rescue Honor Guard today to present the colors and the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Let's pray. Father God, we give you thanks this morning, because this morning comes from you, from your hand. We are here because of you, and we ask that you would allow us to do your work and your business. We ask that you would give wisdom and discernment to our leaders as they make decisions. And Lord, for those of us who are to follow in those decisions, we ask for wisdom in the decisions that we make today as well, that at the end of today, it'll be better because we're working in accordance with your plan. We ask for this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Order up! Lit, haste! Lit, haste!
Good morning, Commissioners, County Administrator, County Attorney. It's my pleasure today to introduce to you the Indian River County Fire Rescue Honor Guard. And there's a history that goes with this and a tradition that goes with this. The Fire Rescue Service dates back to the Roman Empire when military men were assigned fire rescue activities. The Honor Guard is a derivative of that, and the Honor Guard before you today is the Honor Guard that represents this organization at funerals and at local ceremonies. Many of the public might be surprised to hear that we've had 3 line-of-duty deaths in the history of this organization. I hope we never have another, but just in case we do, our Honor Guard is here. And in fact, you may remember a couple of months ago there was several people that were wounded and killed at a Wendy's down in Palm Beach. And one of the persons that lost his life down there was a firefighter from Palm Beach County, but what you may not know is that he had a connection to the Treasure Coast. In fact, he went to Indian River Community College Fire Academy and was their class president and has a connection with many of my employees. So on the lighter side, I'd like to share with you that at the Firefighters Fair, we had nearly 40 young ladies competing for the Little Miss Firefighter, and this group, in their uniforms, escort all those young ladies. So they do a lot of good things too, in addition to some of the more serious. I'd also like to share with you that the men represented here today, there's 13 men in the organization, 2 are on other assignments this morning, but the 13 that are here, they volunteer their time. They don't charge the county for this service, and they practice at least twice a month, and the uniforms they are wearing do not cost the taxpayers a penny. They raised money. They got donations from the Firefighters Association, the Local 2201 sponsored this, the employees themselves sponsored part of this, and also the Vero Beach Volunteer Firefighters also presented monies to help pay for the uniforms. I'd like to also share with you today, I'd like to recognize the names of those who have been participating. This has been a couple-year effort to get to where they are today, but Assistant Chief Ed Prime and Captain Joe Orman both recognized the need for us to have an honor guard to be used in time of need in this community. And they worked on this project for several years, and they began the fundraising campaign. And with that, the men recognized the need to donate their time. Many of these guys are involved with other civic groups and charities locally, and this is just an extension of that. But the names I'd like to recognize to you today is Lieutenant Rich Marini, Dustin Hawkins, Steve Williamson, Shane Downs, Andy Laney, Steve Greer, Russ Thompson, Lieutenant Dan Brooks, Lieutenant Will Ramsey, Captain Joe Orman, and the handsome gentleman in the center that you guys may recognize as one of our administrative assistants, Dutch Perry. You may not know that he's a retired U.S. Army sergeant. And I better get that right because I got that wrong, didn't I, Dutch? He's a sergeant major. I'm sorry.
Difference.
It's a major difference and a major mess up on my part. And I promise you that Dutch will never let me forget that. But Dutch is the spark plug to this group. And Dutch has done most of the organizing at the nuts and bolts level to make this happen. And so I couldn't get by without saying that Dutch is our man. So having said that, thank you very much for giving us the opportunity. And the last thing I would like to do before I leave is that Michael Hyde is on the pipes. And he is not a member of our organization, but he has worked with our organization at every request, and he's donated his time here this morning as well. And I think that really says a lot about this group, what they're doing for this community. And thank you for giving us the time this morning to present. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right? And let's face. Forward, march!
That was nice. They really clean up well, don't they? They sparkle. We appreciate them coming this morning. Any additions, deletions, or emergency items to the agenda?
Madam Chair, under my matters, item 14D2, I would like to table that until May 13th.
Okay, any others? May I have a motion for that, please?
Motion approved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Passes 4-0. For an update for Wesley, he is out of the ocean, and he is in Tallahassee today. So we're glad he's home, but away. Proclamations and presentations. We have a proclamation designating the week of April 29th through May 2nd as Law Week. Is Michelle Carter here? Good morning. Whereas this county was founded on the principle of volunteer adherence to the rule of law, expands rather than limits the opportunities for freedom, and whereas the viable democracy requires an understanding of the nature and basis of our freedom and recognition of the individual responsibility which those freedoms impose. And whereas this year marks the 50th anniversary of Law Week, the theme of Law Week 2008 is the rule of law, foundation for communities of opportunity and equality. This year's theme encourages us all to examine the rule of law. Our role is its sustainability and its role of protecting our communities, our democracy, opportunity, equality, and all that is the most precious to us. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County that the week of April the 28th through May the 2nd, 2008, be designated as Law Week in Indian River County, and all citizens, schools, businesses, legal professionals, and news media of Indian River County are urged to use this occasion to preserve and strengthen the rule of law. Signed by all 5 county commissioners. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you on behalf of the Indian River County Bar Association. I would like to take this opportunity to explain a few events that are going on this week in honor of Law Week and how we as the Indian River County Bar Association are celebrating the rule of law. First, tomorrow, Wednesday, April 30th, there is the first Ask a Lawyer event. It's going to be a live television call-in show shown on local Comcast Channel 8. From 7 p.m. through 9 p.m., residents are encouraged to call in their legal questions to 564-4800. Then Thursday, May 1st, is the second Ask a Lawyer event. This is an all-day event hosted at the Indian River County Courthouse Law Library. Residents are encouraged to come to the Courthouse Law Library with their legal questions from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. to speak with an attorney to get free advice and free legal assistance. During the Ask a Lawyer events, attorneys will be on hand to answer questions in many of the areas of law such as foreclosures, family law, wills, estate planning, business disputes, criminal law, employment law, personal injury, real estate, landlord-tenant issues, and more. Our last event will be on Friday, May 2nd. It's the annual Law Week Blood Drive. This blood drive is sponsored by the Indian River County Bar Association, the Indian River Blood Bank, and the Indian River Clerk of the Circuit Court. The Bloodmobile will be located behind the Indian River County Courthouse from the hours of 8 a.m. to 11 a.m., and everyone is encouraged to come and give. In celebration of Law Week, the Indian River County Bar Association wants to help as many residents as possible. So everyone come out, speak with attorneys, get free legal assistance, give blood, and celebrate the rule of law with us.
Oh, thank you. Any questions of the lawyer?
We have to wait till Law Week.
Yes.
We have the number. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have a proclamation. Gary Wheeler will be presenting this to the National Nurses Week.
Yes, and thank you, Madam Chair. And I'd like to ask Susan Leonard and Janice Gay, are they both here, if they can come up?
I haven't seen Janice this morning.
Okay, well, I'm glad
She
you're here.
usually works on Tuesdays.
I'm glad you're here. This is a privilege for me to read that my daughter's a registered nurse at Shands, and she worked here locally with hospice. And I can remember helping her with vocabulary words that she had to define that I couldn't pronounce. So, but let me read this. And this is a proclamation designating May 6th through the 12th, 2008, with the National Nurses Week. Whereas nearly 2.9 million registered nurses in the United States comprise our nation's largest healthcare profession. And whereas the depth and the breadth of the registered nurses profession meets with different emerging healthcare needs of the American population in a wide range of settings. And whereas the American Nurses Association, as a voice for the registered nurses of this county and country, is working to chart a new course for a healthier nation and relies on increasing delivery of primary and preventive health care. And whereas a renewed emphasis on primary and prevention health care will require the better utilization of all our nation's registered nursing resources. And whereas professional nursing has been demonstrated to be an indispensable component of safety and quality of care of hospitalized patients. And whereas the demand for registered nursing services will be greater than ever because of an aging American population, the continuing expansion of life-sustaining technology, and the explosive growth of home health care services. And whereas more qualified registered nurses will be needed in the future to meet the increasingly complex needs of health care in this community. And whereas the cost-effective, safe, and quality health care services provided by registered nurses will be an even more important component of the U.S. health care delivery system in the future. Whereas along with the American Nurses Association, District 17 of the Florida Nurses Association had declared the week of May 6th through the 13th as National Nurses Week with the theme Nurses, Making a Difference Every Day in celebration of ways in which registered nurses strive to provide safe and high-quality patient care and map out the ways to improve our health care system. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County that the week of May 6th through the 12th, 2008 be designated as National Nurses Week in Indian River County, and the Board calls upon the residents of this community to show their appreciation for the nation's registered nurses, not just during this time, but at every opportunity throughout the year. And this is adopted this 29th day of April and signed by all members of the Board. Thank you.
My name is Susan Leonard. I'm presently Secretary of District 17, and I accept this award on behalf of all nurses working, not yet working, and retired. I have finally hit the other side.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And now that we haven't saved the best for last, but sort of we have, because anytime somebody brings somebody some money, that's always wonderful. And so we have a presentation by the International Association of Firefighters, Local 2201, Indian River Firefighters Paramedic Association, for a check for $1,552 to the Indian River County Youth Guidance Program for summer camp. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity to be here again this morning with the Honor Guard, and now doing this. This is what we like to do. On behalf of the Vero Beach Firefighters Association, IAFF Local 2201, this money that we have to give to you, for y'all to give to the program that we didn't have to think long about in order to give money to, this money comes from the specialty license plate tags that we have, that the firefighters and other people buy that are part of it, that we get from Tallahassee. And the money needs to go to a 501c3, and we thought what better one to give than our own county and give it to the youth guidance to the kids that need it. And I'm proud to give this to you, to give to Barbara Slipford on behalf of the firefighters to youth guidance. So I'm going to give it to y'all so y'all touch it, and then you can give it to her.
Oh, good. Pass it through. Oh, thank you. Everybody want to give.
Could I just say that the firefighters and the commission, so many organizations in this community do so much for the kids of youth guidance. We are a mentoring and activities program. We serve over 700 at-risk kids, K through 12 each year. And the firefighters, they serve as mentors for our kids. We partner with them on the Firefighters Fair, and now this. The commissioners I know have served as mentors themselves, and Commissioner Davis is going to be our auctioneer at our big fundraiser to raise over $80,000 for summer camps this summer, and that's coming up May 17th. So the whole community can support this event by coming to the event. It's a dinner dance. It's just a great cross-section of the community that comes together to support this worthy cause. Tickets are just $40. You can get them online at ircyouth.com, our website, or our link through the county website. People can also sponsor a child for camp for just $75 a week. And many people do that can't come to the event but want to help out with providing some positive recreation for the at-risk youth in this community that without our program would not be receiving any positive recreation during those long months out of summer. You know, most kids are dying for summer to come about, but the kids in our program are, without the camps that we provide, they would have just a very stagnant summer, and they actually look forward to going back to school because their summer was not growth-filled. So we really appreciate the firefighters' commitment to the youth of this community and the commissioners as well. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for all your hard work, too. All right, consent agenda. Well, let's have approval of minutes. None. And consent agenda, anyone like to pull anything from the consent agenda?
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Thank you. Public items. Number 1 is a public hearing for Imagine School. Request for special exception, use approval for a K-8 charter school facility. Memorandum dated April 18, 2008, 71 to 105. This is quasi-judicial. Staff?
Good morning. Stan Bowling, Planning Director. This is a proposal from Imagine Schools for a charter school at a 4th Street location. And just a little bit of background. By state law, charter schools are a type of public school, and they can be approved in the same manner as a conventional school built by the school district, or it can go through the county site plan and building permit process. Most charter schools that we've worked with in this county, such as the North County Charter School and the Charter High School, have chosen the option of going through the county site plan and the building permit process. And that's the case with this particular school, even though it's a public school, and why it's going through the county process. And that process for a school in a residential zoning district is to get special exception approval, which requires public hearing before the Planning and Zoning Commission and then you all. And there's notification to surrounding property owners. In this particular instance, there was a sign posted on the site. Staff contacted surrounding property owners by mail, and there was an ad in the newspaper, and the reviewing planner got several calls before this hearing as well as the Planning and Zoning Commission hearing, and had questions from neighbors. And the types of questions that staff got and responded to was campus security. By the way, the grounds are fenced. The number of students for the project, the first phase of the project is projected to be up to 500 students. That's kindergarten through 5th grade. In the second phase, 250 students, grades 6 through 8. The building locations was another question, and I'll show you the site plan in just a moment, but no building is closer than 100 feet. And then there were questions about traffic and pedestrian. We'll go into that in a little bit more detail in just a moment. The location of the site is on the north side of 4th Street, a little bit west of 58th Avenue. And the site is a little bit over 17 acres in size. Yeah, it's next to the Diana Park subdivision and then the Pine Tree Park subdivision to the north and to the west. And it's the site of the former Parrot Bay subdivision. So there's actually a stormwater pond and entry road developed to some extent on the site there now. But this proposal is basically do away with the subdivision and put in a school. The context of this site, in terms of some of the surrounding areas, again, it's in a portion of the urban service area. That's the pink line that's there on the east side of 58th Avenue. The urban service area is the entire area that's on the east side of 58th Avenue. There's a projection of the urban service area that includes Pine Tree Park and this particular area where the school site is located. So generally, you've got outside the urban service area, very low density development potential, completely to the west of the site, all the way out to 82nd Avenue. But that's the context. It's next to Diana Park and Pine Tree Park subdivision. The proposed site plan is in 2 phases. There is an existing road, and sorry about this, but north is to the right. So 4th Street is here along the left margin. The entry road that's already in place now, that's not paved, but it is in place, that is the general location of the proposed road for this development project. And the first phase involves a cluster, kind of a campus of buildings, a group of buildings that would be K through 5. It includes essentially all the site development except for just a very few items, which I'll show in a moment. So phase 1 is K through 5 and part of the project, but the site will be pretty much completely developed with this particular phase. There are two areas of parking. One is a bus drop-off and visitor parking area, and then off this main drive is the parent and student drop-off area, which affords a long queue. And that was one of staff's concerns, to make sure there's a long enough queue on site for persons dropping off students at this proposed facility. There's also an outdoor recreation area that's pretty large, a little over 2 acres, that's proposed at the north end of the site. There's an existing stormwater pond which will be made to serve the project. The proposed landscape plan for the project, and again, all the landscape improvements will be done with the first phase of the project, includes perimeter buffers around, there's an out parcel here to the southwest, also single-family residences to the west, and there's a buffer all the way along the perimeters, the north and the east side, as well as one along 4th Street. And you can see from this diagram, there's quite a bit of interior landscaping that's required as well in the parking areas and around the buildings themselves. The buffer that is going to be along all of the adjacent properties, which includes the southwest area here to the west, along the north, and in the east, is a 25-foot wide type B, as in boy, buffer. The requirements in our code is to have a buffer at least a type C, which is not as intense as the B, but the B is proposed with this project, and it's 25 feet wide. There's also along the perimeter a 6-foot vinyl-clad chain-link fence is proposed for security, and it's black so that it blends in with the landscaping, but provides security. There's also, by the way, a 4-foot black fence that's proposed around the stormwater pond as well. One of the pedestrian improvements that's proposed, besides kind of a sidewalk system here with the campus, is a sidewalk that goes out to 4th Street. And I'll go into the sidewalk improvements there in a moment to get from 4th Street out to 58th Avenue. But also an internal sidewalk connection into a right-of-way that exists now for Pine Tree Park. In fact, there's kind of an informal footpath in this particular location right now where there's a right-of-way. And what's proposed there is a pedestrian gate that would allow any students coming from the Pine Tree Park area to walk along the local roads of Pine Tree Park and come in here without having to get out along 4th Street or 58th Avenue. Main thing I just want to emphasize for the cross-section here, this is for the portion of the site. I'll go back just a moment. This is for the area right along here, along 4th Street. There's a roadway buffer type that's here, and there'll be what I mainly want to show with this is that there'll be a slight slope and then a planting plateau, a 2-foot berm for that. There's also a decorative fence that's proposed along not only 4th Street but around that out parcel in the southwest corner. So the entire kind of south face of the development will have this decorative black fence, and again, black will help blend in with the landscape buffer that's around it. The other buffers along the other perimeters will also have a 2-foot berm and a planting plateau, as well as the black vinyl-clad chain-link fencing. With respect to 4th Street improvements on this arrow, you can see the existing site, and I'm showing it here with the cursor. This is the existing entrance for the former Parrot Bay subdivision. You can see the stormwater pond that's already in place. These will be the locations of the driveway and the stormwater improvements, and the campus buildings and such will be further back. But you can see a little ways to the east is 58th Avenue. And some of the improvements that will take place between 58th Avenue and the school is a widening of 4th Street to the school site, and then basically a tapering back down as you get to the west property line. But the entrance is over here on the east side of this particular site. A couple of other improvements that go along with the proposed project is a westbound right turn lane into the project entrance along 4th Street. So 4th Street will be widened, and a westbound right turn lane will be put in with this project. There's also, I'm going to go back just a bit, there is along Kings Highway, 58th Avenue, a sidewalk that's approximately 8 feet wide that runs all the way down the west side, right at the back of the curb, from State Road 60 down, all the way down to Oslo Road. And what the county did during the widening project, and when that sidewalk was put in, was extended the sidewalk part way, approximately 8 feet in width, part way at the intersections. And what you can see from this aerial, there is a point where a 5-foot wide sidewalk comes off of that 8-foot sidewalk and comes toward the school site. The proposal with this project is to replace that with a full 8-foot wide sidewalk and have an 8-foot wide sidewalk all the way to the school and then to the west property boundary. So there'll be a good pedestrian connection to 58th Avenue, an 8-foot wide sidewalk from the site, as well as that other sidewalk that I showed you a moment ago going into Pine Tree Park. Prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for Phase 1, if the project is approved, all the landscape buffers and improvements and security fencing would be put in, the recreation area would be put in, the stormwater improvement would be finished, and the 4th Street improvements would be done. So that would be done with the very first phase. The second phase, again, involves just a couple of items that would be added to the site. One is another set of classrooms which would form a complete ring, so to speak, of buildings, the first phase being in this other area here. So that would be part of Phase 2, and those would be the 6th through 8th grade wings. And then there's additional parking field, basically, that would be put in. Those are the two improvements that would be done with Phase 2, and all the other improvements would be done with the first phase. Staff is recommending approval of this request with some conditions, and I did want to mention a couple of things about traffic, because the Planning and Zoning Commission recommendations you saw in staff's report got a little bit more into the traffic and the question of distribution and assignment of trips on this particular project. And so what has been added to staff's recommendation is a recommendation added by the Planning and Zoning Commission. That would be on monitoring the driveway. I'm going to go back just through here for a moment and discuss the issue. And by the way, the Assistant Public Works Director, Chris Moore, is here to get into some detailed questions on traffic. But part of what the Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation revolved around the issue of, well, how much traffic do we expect to come from the west? And again, I showed you earlier the aerial of the urban service area and how the west of the project, west of Pine Tree Park, is outside the urban service area for a few miles till you get to 82nd Avenue. And so the assignment of trips for the project shows almost all the trips coming from and going back to the east, back to 58th Avenue, and a small percentage of trips coming to the west. And because of that small number of trips, there was the warrants were not tripped for a left turn lane. What the Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation involves is basically putting on a monitoring condition such that after the first phase is done and there's the K through 5 facility up and running, before the second phase could be constructed or under construction, they'd have to monitor what the actual traffic pattern is and distribution of trips, and then use that actual data from the first phase to then again assess the left turn requirement, whether it's required or not, or there'll be enough turning movements and people coming from the west to warrant under the land development regulations a left turn lane. That's essentially the condition that was added by the Planning and Zoning Commission and is in the recommendation that staff has as well. Just to kind of summarize the conditions that staff is recommending with approval of the project, one is with the outdoor lighting. This had come up with the LDS Church on 12th Street recently, and shielding the lights that are on the outside of the building and in the parking lot to meet the State Road 60 light shielding requirements. That's a recommended condition, and the applicants agreed to that. Construction of the right turn lane, as I had mentioned before on 4th Street, is also a condition of approval. and the construction of the 4th Street roadway improvements and the widening to the east, and then the transition across the frontage of the site. Also, installation of the required landscape and opaque features and security is part of the recommendation. And this last one I'd kind of highlighted in blue, all required parking to be paved. Staff recommended that be added as a 4th condition, just so that there's no confusion, that the required number of spaces as each phase comes in, as shown on the site plan, that those parking spaces be paved. And that is staff's recommendation. And I'd be glad to try to answer any questions that you might have.
Commissioners, any questions at this point?
No, ma'am.
All right. Is there anyone speaking for this project? Yes, good morning. Do you want to come forward?
They have to be sworn.
Swearing.
Well, attorneys don't have to be sworn, but those that are speaking need to be sworn today. All those that are speaking, please stand and be sworn.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. As you know, my name is Bruce Barquette. I'm here representing the applicant. I practice with Collins, Brown, Caldwell, Barquette, and Garavelli at 756 Beachland Boulevard. I'm pleased today to be representing Imagine Schools. As you know, a charter school is a public school to which all students are welcome. This charter school is located on 17.4 acres in the southwest part of the county, and this is actually a really good location for a school. It's at the eastern edge of one neighborhood, and it's at the western side of many other neighborhoods. It's a good site. The site has already been cleared. It's already been approved for development for residential subdivision. We were able to take advantage of some of the improvements that they've done, including the stormwater improvement pond. As staff report stands, by the way, I wanted to express our appreciation for the work that we've done with the staff and with Mr. Baird. We are on a very tight time schedule, and they have, although they've made us toe the line, which is fine, that's what they're supposed to do, they've really assisted us in getting to you today and quickly, and we appreciate that. But as staff indicated, this project satisfies all the land development regulations, and for some of the important ones, we exceed them by a wide margin. For example, open space, we have 70%, and all that's required is 40%. Buffers, the project is showing type B buffers instead of type C buffers, and that's significantly more extensive and expensive. And on all except 1 yard, we have a 200-foot setback instead of a 100-foot setback. I mean, we exceed the LDRs by a wide margin. Accordingly, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval, and they added only one condition, and it's a condition to which we readily agreed. It involved monitoring of traffic before approval of Phase 2, and that's fine. I will note that yesterday I went out and drove the site, and then I drove some of the other elementary schools, and the condition that Planning and Zoning Commission recommended was they were concerned about a left turn lane into the project. Glendale doesn't have a left turn lane, and neither does Rosewood or Citrus or Highlands or J.A. Thompson, but that's all right, because we recognize that it may be an issue, and so we'll do the monitoring before Phase 2, and if that comes up, then that's a fine condition. I will tell you that the supporters of this application, many of whom are wearing yellow shirts in the audience today, in case you didn't notice that. If you happen to be wearing a yellow shirt and you're not a supporter, we thank you for your choice of wardrobe today. But we have the team here that can answer any questions you have. We have Bruce Moya, the civil engineer who designed the project, Ryan Rusnak, our planning consultant, Joe Hill, the principal of the school, Christian Cascone, the director of development for the applicant, Kimberly Horn's traffic engineer, Adrian Dabrowski's here. So, you know, with staff recommendation of approval and planning and zoning recommendation of approval, I don't want to go on and on, but we do have people who can answer questions, including me if they're not too tough.
Okay, thank you. At this point, I will open the public hearing. The public hearing is open. Would anyone like to speak on behalf of the charter school? Okay, no yellow shirts want to come forward. Name and address, please, for the record.
Okay. Tracy Brueggemann. My address is 6471 53rd Circle. I'm nervous, so. Okay, I have several points that I want to bring before the board. And the first one, I found that it was kind of interesting this morning that the Firefighters Association would give a check for the youth guidance of our community, which I thought that that was really great. But I also wanted to bring to the board, Imagine Schools is going to be bringing about $10 million into our community. That is not going to take money out of our current school system. And I believe that that is a huge gift to people in our community. Let's see. They are a non-for-profit organization, so they're not here to make money off of our schools. They're here just to give. I also think that it's a good choice for everybody. I mean, we have public school, we have charter schools, and well, we're trying to get charter schools. We have one in Sebastian, and we have magnet schools. And so I feel like this is one more choice that is good for our community and good for people that can't really make a choice of private education. Most of the people on the board, even that we met with, the one prior to this, everybody's kids went to private schools. Well, not everybody's children can go to private schools in this community. And so I feel like this gives people that can't afford private school a choice. And I also believe that, I know some of the arguments have been, well, you know, they're taking money out of the district, out of the current public schools and giving it to charters. I know I'm like hitting on a lot of different points, but I feel that the money that charter pulls out of the public school system, quote public school system, is money that is for each individual child, not so much for the public school, but for people to use for the child that makes the choice to move to a charter school. I know that one thing is about the property. I do not live in that community, sadly, because I would love to have a school in my community. And I know that North County, I live towards the north part of the county off 65th Street, and I know that one of the schools that they would like to put there is on 69th Street, and if that was in my backyard, I would love it. I know that right now the property is a depressed property. There is nothing there. It's vacant. And I feel like this school is going to improve on that property, and not only improve what it looks like, but also the drainage, the barriers supersede what is required. And if there is a problem with traffic, I know that charter schools can have a police officer come and direct their traffic. And I know the majority of schools around town that do not have left turning signals do have either volunteer or paid officers that direct traffic. And my children do go to some of those schools, and it works perfectly fine. Let's see. And I guess basically I think this is a wonderful thing for our community. When you go and you read about Imagine Schools and what they offer to a community, people will move into communities in order just to get their kids into these schools. And I just ask that the board holds our school, Imagine Schools, to the same standards that they hold their current schools. And that basically you allow us to have a choice in our community and allow us to receive this wonderful gift that has been being given to us.
Thank you. Next. Please, we have a policy that we do not applaud, and we have a time frame here. We want to move through it. If you'll please refrain from that. Good morning. Name and address, please.
Commission members and County Administrator Christian Cascone with Imagine Schools. I just wanted to talk briefly. There's going to be a lot of discussion about sort of the details today, and I wanted to talk briefly about the overall mission of the organization and why we're in the community in the first place. And the Bakke family, this is one of the fastest and largest charter school organizations in the nation, and the Bakke family are the philanthropists that are funding it. And Dennis Bakke is a New York Times best-selling author for a book called Joy at Work, and was an executive in the energy industry, and his wife was a 30-year educator. and they decided that they wanted to make a difference in education. And I left another nonprofit where I was for a couple of years and came to this organization because I felt like this was really a mission that could make a difference. Charter schools are all about choice. They're all about options. They're all about providing a better education for the children in the community. And the great thing about this organization, and I would love to see 10 more just like us come out there and do this, is that when these schools come into a community, everyone is forced to raise their game because, as Dennis says, parents vote with their feet. And so if we don't do a great job in educating these children, the parents will move on. We really feel like this is an opportunity for this community. I grew up just down the road here in Palm Beach County, and I know I was driving around, and I know the university over at FAU is putting together a 1,600 student charter school there in the Traditions area. Been very well received. We have 11 other schools in the state, and about 10 more opening, 9 more opening the next 2 years here. And we really feel like if given the opportunity to work with the local communities and turn these schools over, the schools are paid for by the Bakke family. There's no tax money involved in constructing them. The operating revenue is then FTE, which is public money. That this could be a great school for Indian River, and any questions that you all have or anything else you'd like to know about Imagine Schools and what it brings as an organization, I'm here for you today.
Thank you. Next.
Good morning. My name is Joe Mills. I live at 6750 49th Court. I'm the principal that's been hired to run the school, so, and I appreciate that honor to do this. It's a great organization. I come here mainly to address a safety issue because I know that's a hot topic with this, and I've been an administrator. I think this is my 8th year as an administrator. My first 5 years as administrator, I was assistant principal at Sebastian High School. I was in charge of safety and security there. And in North Carolina at Smoky Mountain High School, I was in charge of safety and security as an administrator. Just to let you know, it's a very important issue. It's a very big issue. And I do take it seriously. In those years, I've developed many different tools to help in that endeavor. But I guess if we're talking about traffic and those type of issues, of course, it was mentioned earlier that we can get an officer to help with traffic. The other thing, what we can do or what I can do as a principal is I can talk to those parents if I see an issue of how students are being dropped off, how traffic's coming in. If westbound traffic needs to either go through 63rd or 66th to go to 8th and come around, I can address that with parents. I've always found that parents are very easy to work with when they know that we're trying to help their children be safe. So with that, I just want to let you know that there are many things that after the school gets operational that we're going to be working on, because we're not going to put our kids in an unsafe situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
I need some help with the projector here. That's way above my skill level. Thank you. Hi, my name's Ryan Rusnak. I've been told I look young, but I've been a practicing planner in East Central Florida for 11 years. The pleasure of being a planning consultant for Imagine Schools, not only on this project and their other project that they're working on in Indian River County, but several others throughout East Central Florida. And as a planner, kind of one of the first things you look at, is the area ideally situated, and we did a little bit of research with respect to student population and school capacity. And I really wish I had this map during the planning and zoning hearing because it's telling. This is a elementary school utilization per student map. We obtained this from the school board, and the black dots represent children that attend overcrowded schools, and the white dots represent children that attend undercrowded schools with capacity. And you'll see this area right here is the Imagine Schools property. And what it's showing is there's several elementary schools in that area that have a capacity problem. And it also shows the location of population and really is telling with respect to traffic. You'll see, and we showed a map at the Planning and Zoning Board of rooftops, but you'll see that the population is really spread more toward the east, and we really expect the traffic to behave that way coming from east to the school. I know currently our charter is K through 5, and that's what we're planning as our first phase. But you'll also see that This is the middle school utilization map, and all three of those schools are overcrowded. I know that I've seen in the news story throughout Central Florida that school board budgets are being slashed and reduced, and really that translates to the capital improvements that are allowed to those schools. So as it was mentioned, a gift, I really believe it is. You have Imagine Schools coming in and providing a capital improvement of $8 to $10 million to fund a school, and essentially what that is going to do is take pressure off of those local schools because they are not funding capital improvements to expand capacity. And also we've seen, and I know that the legislature passed down ordinances and required local governments to adopt school concurrency, and that's going to have a dramatic effect in future years. That we can't put more rooftops or continue to put more rooftops unless there is adequate capacity at the school. And again, Imagine Schools is providing relief to overcrowded schools. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, Melody Ippolito, 5255 East First Square Southwest, Vero Beach. I'm about 2 blocks from the proposed site for the new Imagine School, and my son will be entering kindergarten in the fall, and I'm very excited about the opportunity to have the choice of him going to this charter school. Although I'm in a zone that has an A-rated school, my son has been in the Montessori program up to this point. And I've done some research on Project Child and was very excited when his current teacher for the past 2 to 3 years said, that's a wonderful program, you have to get him in, that's where he would excel. So I went through the school board and I contacted Glendale and I registered him and did all those things and put in a specific request that he be put into the Project Child program. Since knowing my own son and also hearing from his educator, that is where he should do best. Well, I was told that requests aren't honored or even looked at and not to bother. It's a random thing and it really doesn't matter where your child would do best. So with those concerns, I'm glad to have the opportunity to possibly have a choice, and I hope that you'll give us that choice as parents. I know that Imagine has done a lot of work and there's been a lot of concerns, and I think they're addressing all those concerns and will continue to address it even with the way that they're going to monitor it for K through 8. When I look at middle school, I'm 5 minutes from Oslo Middle School, but I'm not zoned from there for there. My son will be bused into Gifford, or I'll drive him into Gifford. That's a concern I have too, and studies also show that K through 8 schools are better for that middle school age group than having a separate middle school. We all know what's been going on in Gifford. It's a concern for people to have their children sent over there. Oslo Middle's not rated that well. Here's a choice for us as parents. And it is a gift because we've been promised another middle school and the county doesn't have the money to build another middle school. Here's the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good morning. Bruce Moya with MBV Engineering. We're at 2455 14th Avenue here in Vero Beach. We are the site design engineers for this project. And before I start with the project, some of my comments, I'd like to really address the Imagine Schools organization. And, we do work for a lot of different people and developers in this area, in the 3 or 4 counties that we do a lot of work in. And Imagine is definitely one of the finest organizations we've had the pleasure to serve. Just the way they operate, it speaks volumes of how they expect the school to be operated. A lot of the improvements that we had to do, I think you're going to probably hear some talk about the roads. On 4th Street, it is an existing substandard road. It's 19 feet wide, pretty much from just a few hundred feet west of 58th all the way is probably as far west as it goes. What we're proposing to do is to improve that road, to make it the 12-foot wide lanes, to provide shoulders on that street for all the way from where it ends at just west of 58th all the way to approximately 300 feet west of our property line. So upgrading that street to provide safer access for vehicles, and then also the turning movements that are being required for us to address for the westbound traffic. I think we've looked at a lot of schools, and I think we've addressed pedestrian access to the school better than I think I've seen most schools around here, where we propose to connect not only to the main street on 4th Street, which has a great pedestrian access from 58th, but we're also going to the north into 61st Avenue to allow the children to come from the neighborhoods where the houses are. So where the people are really coming from, where those heavy populations are, we have great pedestrian access. We're actually removing what was installed on 4th Street, which is only a 5-foot wide sidewalk, because we don't feel that safe enough. We're going to widen that. So we're going to rip out what's there, widen it so that wider sidewalk, it's actually 7 feet, not 8 feet, but so you have a 7-foot bike path that comes off of 58th, gets you all the way to the school. And we're also doing that 7-foot path all the way up to 61st Avenue so that people can ride, the kids can ride their bikes there. I know I did when I was a kid, it was great. So that'll further reduce any traffic issues that we believe will happen on 4th Street. We've upgraded the landscaping. We were actually the design engineers for Parrot Bay. Unfortunately, the project hasn't really gone anywhere, and so you have a 17-acre bare piece of property just sitting there, and I think that it would be a vast improvement to have this site developed, have the grass put in, the trees put in. I mean, there's no trees on that site. It's basically stripped, so to have nice upgraded vegetative buffers to control the drainage that now pretty much has not been controlled the way it's supposed to be because the project never got built. So we're going to confine the drainage, get it to the pond where it's supposed to go, put in the landscaping, make the site look really nice, and I think you'll really be proud of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
I'm Sherry Farron, 44157 7th Street. I don't have a written speech. I just would like to say to please vote for this and support us. I have 2 boys and I need a choice. I need to be able to put my children where I feel is best, and Imagine School is the place to go. So please support it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone wish to speak against this project?
Good morning. My name is Daniel Shaw. I live at 545 61st Avenue. I do have a letter I'd like to give to each of you.
If you'd start with our clerk, please.
Thank you.
You just give it to him, we'll pass it down. Thank you.
I apologize, I was unable to attend the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, so I do have some concerns and some questions. I'm very concerned about the amount of traffic that the school will generate. No left turn lane eastbound will be a major problem. I reviewed the report that said that the area west of 66th Avenue is going to be outside the urban service district, so it'll be low density. Well, when 66th Avenue is completed from Road 60 to Oslo Road, everybody's going to avoid the intersection of Road 60 and 58th Avenue, and they're going to come down that way to get to the southeast part of the county. So I ask you to take that into consideration. Also, it is hard to get out from our road, 61st Avenue, which is the next subdivision to the west, as it stands right now. I'm also concerned with the lighting situation. Excuse me, let me get back to the traffic. It's amazing how many people that are for the charter school have addressed the traffic issue. They must know that there is a traffic issue that's going to be there. Willing to give a police officer, willing to do this. I just ask you, there are current problems with Glendale and Citrus because there are no turn lanes. Why are we going to make the problem worse? I'm also concerned with the lighting because right now, as we leave our community and head north on 58th Avenue, it's interesting to look up in the sky and see the ambient light from the lighting on Road 60. So now we're going to be faced with, even though they're shielded, it's going to be an orange or a white glow in the sky. We're not going to be able to look up and see any stars because we're going to be viewing a lighted schoolyard. So, you know, I don't want to sit on my front porch and look across the street and see the lighting from the school system, from the charter school. I also believe this is a wrong site to put the school. I'm not against the charter school. I think it's a great idea if it's on the right side. There are several developers that have set aside tracts of land to build schools on. Why wasn't this looked into at the time? I believe these tracts should be utilized first, rather than take a subdivision that was going to be there or could be there at some particular point in time and take that. I assume they're not paying any taxes on this piece of property. I'm sure it will be an exempt from paying any property taxes. Well, now the county is losing however many lots they could have put in there, which if it's 3 per acre, that's approximately 50 lots that you're losing revenue from the tax base. I also have just some questions of how the charter school, are they going to own this property? In any documentation that I've looked at, it doesn't show that they are going to be the owner of the property. I would like to ask that question. And I would also like to know if they are going to be tax exempt. I hope that you will not approve this special exemption. This will greatly impact the quality of our lives in our neighborhood. And the cost of all the taxpayers is going to be impacted by this approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak against this item? Please come forward.
Good morning. My name is Rick Hope, and I live at 345 Farley's Court in Vero Beach, which is a subdivision called Lost Hammock, which is directly across the street from the proposed location of charter school. I also hand-delivered each of you a letter that probably outlines a lot of the concerns that I'll talk today, but I wanted to bring it forward in a public forum. I have no doubt at all that Imagine charter schools will be good for our county and that they bring a lot to the table, but I just really feel like this is a poor choice of a site. And so I'm here today to oppose it and tell you what some of my concerns are. One of the things that I feel like is because they have a time frame constraint, they're trying to get this school approved, built, and open in fall, which to me is going to be kind of a miracle in itself. I think there's a rush to push this through that really shouldn't be the problem of the counties and the residents to make this happen for them. I think this thing needs to be studied a lot further before it's pushed through. I mean, I really feel like what we're trying to do is put a square peg in a round hole. I mean, I think there's plenty of other sites. If they take their time, they'll find one that meets the needs better of the residents. Here's some of my concerns and objections. Traffic impact is probably the biggest one. As our own engineer said, that stretch of road is substandard along there. My wife and I walk along there all the time. We see young kids. If you take 4th Street from there out west, the road is so narrow that 2 big vehicles can hardly pass each other. And one of the problems is that the ditch bank is about a foot higher than the road, so even if a kid on a bike wanted to get off, he can't because the bank is up that much higher. He's going to hit the bank and fall into the road. Often I see yard people parked and blocking up one whole lane of 4th Street. So there's only one lane for 2 cars to pass in opposite directions and pedestrians and bicycles. So this is already in there, and the project engineer already admitted that widening that road on 4th Street is going to be a problem down in the future, because if you've ever been down it, and I encouraged each of you to go down and take a look for yourself in my letter, there are a lot of houses that are 20 feet from the road. So it would involve eminent domain and buying some homes. So I feel like we're getting the cart before the horse here. There's also an River County facility out on 4th Street near 74th Avenue, and there's a lot of heavy trucks that come in that facility that head eastbound into the direction we're talking about. I think it's a big mistake that planning and zoning is not requiring any improvements at all west of this property. No road widening, no turn lanes, no sidewalks. Regardless of what traffic studies say and the stats say, there's a lot of young families in Pine Tree Park. and there's a paved road that goes from west of this project that goes from 4th Street to 8th Street, and that's the main road that people come in and out on. And they'll be coming out of that road, coming down 4th Street, eastbound on this project. There's going to be a lot of traffic, and there will be kids on bicycles and walking in that direction. And I think staff recognizes this is a problem, and that's why they made a compromise to do this in phases. And I just don't really know what I think about the idea of monitoring. I mean, what are we going to monitor? Fatalities? So I just think that asking children to walk or ride bikes to school on this road with its increased traffic from people coming to the school is going to be irresponsible and short-sighted. I just don't think it should be done. Okay, I want to talk about some of the impact to adjacent property owners, which of course I'm one. There's this property is surrounded by existing homes and subdivisions on 3 sides right now. And on the 4th side is an agricultural compound owned by the Golnicks, a local family. This property was previously platted subdivision with RS3 zoning. And so every adjacent homeowner who lives there had no reason at all to expect that a school would ever be there. They had every reason to expect that this would be a residential subdivision, a lot quieter, a lot less use on the roads, the substandard narrow roads. So I think that this project is going to impact our quiet enjoyment of our property that we're entitled to. And I also think it's going to affect the property values. And lastly, I feel like this project, this site was picked mainly because it was a distressed subdivision sale. And because Imagine was able to use some of the developed infrastructure. And so what we're doing is considering issuing a special exception use, really because this is to Imagine's financial benefit and their convenience. And all those reasons and the time frame, to me, is not a valid reason for granting a special exception today. I mean, I don't really see any big hardship here. The hardship is they'll have to look for another property and maybe wait another year to open up this school. So with that, I would just like to say I hope that you will look at the facts, and I hope you'll make the wise decision and the responsible decision and vote no to this special exception. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello, my name's Sandy Reinhardt. I live at 398 Farley's Court. We've heard today many merits and benefits of this school. Unfortunately, that's not the reason or the issue that's put here before you. It's granting a special exception use for this site. I'm going to try not to belabor many of the points that were already made. I'll do my best, but 4th Street is treacherously narrow. There is no shoulder on the south boundary of the property. It is a canal embankment that will periodically fall into the canal, and dirt has to be brought in to repair that area. When I also live in the subdivision that is directly across from the proposed site, just to the west boundary. When I exit my subdivision and turn east, I have to ensure that there is no traffic in the westbound lane because the road is so narrow. The school is only required to improve the traffic or improve the roadway up to the western boundary of the property. And there is really no taper, it's just an abrupt termination to the point that the property ends. Mr. Barquette, when he spoke first in favor of on the site, said that the location is at the western side of many other neighborhoods, yet that's in direct contradiction to their points made that there's going to be very little westbound traffic to the school. I take my daughter to and from school. I drive her. She attends Gifford Middle School. There is a uniformed officer that is out every morning and every afternoon to direct traffic. If you've not experienced traffic at elementary pickup and drop-off time, I can tell you it's quite an experience. But the traffic issues, the queuing issues that they attempt to control involve certain things. And one of the things they have done at Gifford Middle School is when you exit the loop, the car rider loop, you have to turn northbound. You are not permitted to turn back the direction of the majority of the entry. I live in the South County, yet I drive around and approach the school from the north so that I can avoid the traffic and queuing issues. If this school is built in this area and they're saying that very little traffic will be coming from the west, they have to consider that all of the queuing issues and traffic problems that we're going to have on 4th Street will involve people coming from the other direction to avoid traffic problems. In addition to 66th Avenue, when that's paved and extends to Route 60, there's a great deal of traffic that's going to be coming from the western side. I have another concern also about busing. I noticed on the site plan that the busing and the vehicular traffic will be entering and exiting down the same lane, which I think is very dangerous. And I don't know how the buses are going to be able to turn eastbound onto 4th Street to get to 58th Avenue. But many cars will be utilizing the west portion of 4th Street. Currently, there is no way to expand that because there's a canal on the south side and homes that are 20 to 30 feet bordering the road on the north. I know that many homes on that area can't even park their car in their front yard because it is so close to the road. So it's really just not logical to assume that western bound traffic will not be an issue here. The monitoring also, as Mr. Hope said, is a concern because what will happen if this is an issue? What will the school be required to do, or what will the taxpayers be required to do to rectify the situation on the western issue? To sum up everything here is just there are many reasons. I mean, I think this is a great school, but I think the site is what we need to consider here, and the road, the traffic are just not, a very good fit to this site. So I hope that you will take that into consideration.
Thank you. Next.
My name is Tahir Husseini. I live at 6060 4th Street in Vero Beach. I am not opposed to any school being built in the county, but the location I think is very bad location. If I drive around the county, I found a lot of places are more convenient and better and easy to get in, easy to get out than this one. I think the reason was this one was chosen because this is the press property. But I don't want to repeat what other people have said. I want to add a couple of things. One of them, if you look in the newspaper, you find that Glendale School is losing one teaching position because attendance is low. And Glendale School is the nearest school to this one. That means if this one will open, Glendale might lose more students and might lose more teaching position. When two empty schools, what happens if the school doesn't work out? They are going to pack and go. If you look on the internet, you find about 20 or 30% of this type of school, they close down because of financial reason or attendance or some other reason. That means if it's built and maybe 2 or 3 or 5 years from now they close down, we are left with a worse position or worse situation that we are in. The other thing is the traffic from west side of 4th Street. I believe the people who did the engineering study did not do it during citrus season because you see a lot of citrus trucks. You see orange trucks and grapefruit trucks going on 58th Avenue on 4th Street between end of November and about middle of March or end of March. And that adds to the traffic which people did not keep in their calculation. More than that, there is a lot of kids who live west side of 4th Street, and these kids, instead of being able to ride a bike or walk for about 5 minutes, they are forced to take a car because there's no way they could walk or ride a bicycle. It's impossible. The road is narrow. One edge there, one side there's a ditch, the other side there's a lot of houses and mailboxes, and there's no way to make it. I mean, I walk over there, I know what it is like. And I'm not against the school, but the location I think is a bad location and bad choice. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Alex Introcaso. I live at 6535 4th Place. I am on the west side of Pine Tree Park. I'm a small builder in Pine Tree Park. I'm not necessarily against this project. It looks beautiful. I think that the whole area needs to be improved. I like what they're doing. but everyone that spoke before me here about the road on 4th Street, it is a concern. It should be a concern for everyone involved. I think maybe this should be the time that they address some of these things so that when a project comes in like this, we can take care of some of the things that obviously need to be taken care of. I have 2 small kids. I don't know if they'll get to this school or not, but that there's a lot of families in Pine Tree Park. There will be people coming from the west, so that should be thought about with that left-hand turn signal going east. I wasn't really going to talk about the 4th Street problems because I figured that it would probably be resolved. What I was going to talk about is I own some property on the northern boundary, 300 feet to be exact. So that would be behind what they're proposing as the outdoor recreation site, I think, Stan. I like the buffers, I like the boundary, the fence, the berms. They upgraded to the B instead of the C buffering. But I guess my question is partly for Imagine Schools, but also for the county itself. 6th Street is a paper street. That I haven't heard any thought about the path that's going into Pine Tree Park there at 61st Avenue. On the surface, yeah, it seems like a good idea. I like the idea. What I don't like is that I haven't heard anything about 6th Street and my property, and there's 2 or 3 other lots back in there, that what's happening right now is you get a lot of kids on 4-wheelers back in there. It's and again, I don't think that the school necessarily is going to be a problem for this stuff, but what I see is you're going to increase the amount of children around that area. So why not at this time, let's address they're going to put in an access there to Pine Tree Park. There's obviously going to be whether kids are getting dropped off there or they're walking through there. Again, all of which I think can be a good thing. But right now, there's a lot of vacant Australian pine, swampy area where kids are hanging out, part of which is my property. I would like to have some insight to if anybody thought about that problem, and I don't know if the county has any plans maybe to do away with that paper street so that property can be developed, or can be cleared, and again, I hope I get an answer about this. If again, Stan, whether it's from you or if Imagine School has thought about that also. I mean, it's nice and easy to say that we can just put a path in there, but there are some other repercussions because to the surrounding property there, especially that it's vacant and that it's already being used, as a 4-wheel bike path, and again, what was planning to be done is there's going to be an increase in volume of kids around that area, and I just want to have some foresight into something that I can see that can be a problem. We might as well make it right from the beginning. So again, hopefully I can get some thought on that, maybe from Mr. Barquette or from the county itself. So thank you.
Thank you. There are a lot of questions at the end if you can address, and we have some. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else against this item?
My name is Jeff Brewster. I live at 360 Farley's Court. My home is directly south of the entrance to the proposed new school. To not reiterate a lot of the stuff that they've talked about, traffic issues, so my main concerns certainly are the property value. I bought the 4 acres that I currently have in Lost Hammock to build my dream home on. My dream home did not include a school directly across the street. Spent a lot of money on my house, I pay a lot of money in property taxes to Indian River County. I would not have built my house out there had I ever known that there could be a school across the street from me. I don't think that anybody that's gotten up and talked as a property owner here is somebody that's directly impacted that borders either on the north, south, east, west portion of that school. Everybody that has talked that's a property owner has been against the school coming in when they've been directly impacted. People that are not directly impacted that live, 10 miles away, 2 miles away, there seem to be some of the people that are for the school. I have an issue if the school fails. I was looking at their website on their economic sustainability. They rate themselves only as a C+. They do have a lot of D schools in their chart. If this school fails, what happens to that piece of property across the street from me? Is it going to turn into an alcohol rehabilitation center? Is it going to, turn into a homeless shelter? What other kind of special exemption can be placed over there? Schools are built, and communities normally are built around them. You don't take a school and jam it into the middle of an existing community. If you look at everything that the school board's done in the past, they're building new schools, Liberty Magnet, the other Liberty School up there, Sebastian River, Oslo. None of these are forced right into the middle of an existing housing development. I think there's better property for them to build a school on down near Indian River Community College and the charter high school that's down there. If they want a K1 through 5 school, build it all next to the other schools that are in the area where the infrastructure is. I hope that y'all vote against this zoning change.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Good morning. My name is Hal McAdams. I live at 540 61st Avenue. A lot of information has been exchanged here this morning, a lot of concerns, and I am one of those who still have concerns that were not addressed at the last meeting for the planning and zoning. Those concerns are exit improvements. We've looked at the improvements that are being made for the arrival of students, but nothing has been addressed for when the students are picked up and dismissal, in which hundreds of cars will be leaving and exiting onto 4th Street. And we find that this amount of traffic with a small turning lane on 4th Street to 58 to carry traffic, approaching traffic, meeting traffic, right turns, people waiting, there's going to be a large amount of traffic building up, and people are going to end up taking shortcuts. Those shortcuts will be through Pine Tree Park and other directions in which is not being addressed for improvements on the traffic. In doing so, my next concern is how this will affect my property. I've been in my home for 23 years. I do not wish to see my property values decrease. And addressing the issue on traffic studies. We do not forecast far enough into the future with our traffic studies. Traffic studies, for an example, is that of Glendale Elementary, with people backed up on 8th Street waiting to pick up their children, and people who wish to make a left turn into Glendale at that time cannot. People, we need to understand that we need to look far enough into the future to find out what can be done to make this work, or if it can't work, that we do not approve this at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good morning. My name is Ray Reinhardt. I live at 398 Farley's Court, which is in Lost Hamlet subdivision directly to the south of this project. I'm not going to, you guys are going to get beat over the head many times by everybody about the traffic issues, and they are true and they are real. Once again, I encourage you to go down 4th Street. That's probably one of the most treacherous roads we have in this county. But I just want you guys to really sit back and use a little common sense and forethought. the principal, Joe Mills, of this school has already alluded to the fact that he knows traffic is going to divert from 4th Street. They're going to start coming down 8th Street and going down 63rd Avenue to the south and approaching the school from the west on 4th Street. Most of the people are pretty sharp. They're going to try to avoid a traffic jam. They're going to start finding the shortcuts. We're going to have a huge traffic queue problem of people trying to turn left into this site. And I don't know that you have a left turn lane proposed, or do you even have the right-of-way to create a left turn lane? I think it's just poor planning. And if you guys have a plan to monitor the situation, well, monitoring is going to be too late. The school's already going to be in. We're going to have a traffic problem, and you're probably going to have nothing you can do about it. That road was not designed to take this kind of traffic. It was not designed to take this kind of facility. It's the wrong facility for the wrong place. I have no problem with the Imagine School, just not on this site. Think about it.
Thank you. Any others?
My name's LaVon Walker. I live at 510 61st Avenue. And I'd like everybody just to sit and listen right now and no noise at all. This is what I hear in my yard right now. Nothing. And you're asking me to hear 750 kids a day. I don't think any of you all would like that. I own another house here in Vero Beach, and it's across from the elementary school. I hear a lady screaming on the intercom all day long when I'm over there, and I hear kids running and screaming all day. I was hoping to retire in the house that I live in, and I'm sure all the people that live in our subdivision in Diana Park thought the same in surrounding subdivisions. I'm wondering if y'all are going to take the responsibility of any child that does get ran over or hit on 4th Street, because you will have kids riding their bikes, walking down that street, because you have at least 30 houses on 4th Street. They're not going to walk all the way around. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Jan Knight. My address is 6170 5th Street. My property has not been addressed. I live on a 10-acre parcel sandwiched between Diana Park, 61st Avenue, and Pine Tree Park. I have lived there for over 30 years and appreciate living in a less dense area. Most of the problems have been addressed. One is the actual site of the school. It was a 20-acre grove. A parcel with a 2.5-acre parcel was cut out for a home. The development that is proposed at this time, or has failed, was a 20-home development, not one that you see all along 4th Street to Oslo Road, a very small development. Diana Park is a very small development. 61st has been mentioned as a drop-off point. It is a dead end. It is a cul-de-sac for the subdivision. I enter my house from 61st onto 5th, and quite frankly, for years, children cut through my property to avoid 4th Street and the problem that exists there. If a school is there, I cannot imagine the traffic. 4th Street isn't safe. The county knows this. They have tried to widen it in years past, and houses would be condemned. There's not even room for a sidewalk. The other thing that is amazing to me is that the school is advertising in the Press-Journal as we speak, opening August 2008. I have not seen one plan of the actual buildings. I'm assuming in four months, the only thing that could be constructed and built are portables, glorified trailers. No wonder so much attention has been placed on landscaping and berms, perhaps concealing the lack of quality of the school that is being considered. 4th Street is horrible. The traffic flow, it is a poor choice for a placement of a school. I guess everything else has been addressed. In closing, I think that another choice should be made for the site of the school. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next. Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Karen Hope, and I live at 345 Farley's Court. That's a Lost Hammock subdivision right across the street from the proposed charter school location. And while I'm happy that Imagine is coming, I think that's great. I think competition in schools is wonderful. I also would like to oppose their request for a special exception to use that location for their school. There are several reasons. One, we've been talking about the traffic, the walking traffic, pedestrian and bicycles coming to the school, but in fact it's a charter school. It's not a neighborhood school. So while there will be some problems with kids riding their bikes and walking, this is primarily a school where parents are going to be driving their children every day, morning and afternoon. That is a lot of traffic for even 500 students. It has been addressed. You can't turn, for example, out of our subdivision, as Sandy Reinhardt mentioned. You cannot turn east without making sure no one is coming west. So to turn east onto 4th out of that school is going to be very difficult. It means that a lot of people are going to be, when they leave the school, will be heading west. They'll be leaving to the west. Now, that'll be especially easier once, I believe that the plans for 66th Avenue is that it will be widened and paved, connecting all the way from the North County to the South County. Well, that's just going to make the traffic worse. And as people have mentioned, 4th Street is just treacherously narrow. There is the ditch on the south side. There's no more, there are no shoulders on that road once you get west of the property that's proposed. The ditch is no more than 4 feet from the road, and there have to be at least a dozen houses on the north side of the road that, again, they're just right on top of the road. There are going to be problems ever widening that road. There are going to be eminent domain problems. So to say you're going to monitor it, as other people have said, it'll be too late. The traffic problem will be ridiculous, and there's not going to be a way to widen that road. Now, it was mentioned, for example, like in Glendale, that there is no left turn lane to get into Glendale. But I've gone to try to pick up a friend's child several times. She stayed with us for a week, and I came from the west to Glendale. And I ended up having to do a U-turn on 8th Street to get into the eastbound lane to ever hope to get into Glendale. I mean, it's just crazy there. So as everyone else has said, it's just a great idea for a school, but there's just too much difficulty. And I think to grant a special exception for this is just poor planning. Now, on a more personal side, because of all of these planned developments, that the land has been cleared, there's no houses, or even the ones where there are houses. It has really, we are in a sense fortunate because we have gotten a lot of the wildlife that all these cleared out lots have caused to go to find homes. We have, in our neighborhood, we have bobcats, we have foxes, we have otters, we have birds of all types, horned owls, screech owls, the whole bit. And to have that area across the street, not just the noise, but the lighting is going to disturb, again, those animals that have been forced to leave their habitats and have been fortunate enough to find quiet neighborhoods, ours directly to the south and Diana Park to the west, and they will be disturbed again. Now, I know that that land is already cleared, and I know that that would have an effect on things, the wildlife, et cetera, but not as much as a 750-student school. And finally, those of us who live in that area, we really are blessed. We talk about that little road and that it's treacherous, but it's old Vero. Most of us who live in that area, most of us even who live in our neighborhood, which has only been around for maybe 6 or 8 years, have been here. We remember what Vero was like 25 and 30 years ago because we were residents then. It's old Vero, and we know that we're blessed to live there. We know that maybe we're more blessed than others. But we really, when we moved there, we did not expect to have a school across the street. We expected to have another neighborhood. That's what we should have expected, but we did not expect to have a school that was going to be populated by up to 750 students. And again, this is a special exception. We're not asking you, don't let them build something that they had every right to expect that they could build on their property which they own. I understand they have rights. I appreciate property owners' rights. This is a special exception to use that property. So we're not asking you again to refuse something that they should be able to build. We're asking you, please don't grant a special exception for this case. Someone mentioned that there were, it was a blighted lot, it should be an improvement. There's lots of blighted lots. There's lots of areas that have been cleared for developments, and there are no developments. There are no houses. So it is not a unique piece of property in our county, unfortunately. So we would prefer that you would choose one of those sites and build an Imagine School there instead of across the street from us. Thank you.
Thank you. We are overdue for our 10-minute break for captioning, and we will do that at this point. Thank you. Come back to order, please.
I think Wesley's here. No, Wesley's always.
Name and address, please.
Hello, my name's Ron Lambert. I live at 365 Farley's Court. I'd just like to voice my opposition to the special exception request, just for a few reasons, and most of which have been addressed already. I won't bore you with, but one thing with the traffic, the 4th Street everybody's talked about, on 66 Avenue, everybody's aware that's going to be paved from State Road 60 to 4th Street. I think they'll generate even more traffic from the west going east on 4th Street. That's one point. But also, I just noticed in the special exception code, I did a little research and just noticed on in section 971.05, it's paragraph 2, it says such uses, would not adversely impact the public health, safety, comfort, good order, appearance, convenience, morals, and general welfare, as such would be compatible with permitted uses within a particular zoning district. I just thought, where it affected the safety, comfort, and good order of the neighbors. Really, I just think the people worst impacted by this are the houses that back up right to the school. They're not given a choice, whether they want to live next to a school or not. It's just, being put in there. And which brings me to another point. There was a petition signed by 49 neighbors in the immediate area. I did email, I think most of you, I don't know whether you got it or not, but I emailed you a copy of the petition. I'll read it to you real quick. It's very brief. It just says, we strongly oppose this location for Imagine School for the following reasons. Number one, I believe my private property rights are being violated by daily noise, congestion, and traffic that I will be forced to live with on a daily basis if this goes forward. Number two, I believe my private property rights are being violated if Indian River County takes property value away from me as a result of this approval, which reduces the market value of my home, or could, reduce the market value. And number three, I believe this will make 4th Street much more dangerous to children, pedestrians, and cars. But I don't know if this overhead is on or not. I just want to show a little map on here. Apologize for the X's, but basically the red X's signify the property owners which surround the site. You can see the Imagine School site right here. The property owners to the east are the Galnicks. They have they live there, and surrounding it to the south and to the west, you can see 61st Avenue there. Well, all the red X's signify all the people that have signed the petition requesting that the special exception is not approved. I do have a copy of this here if you'd like to have it.
You can give it to the clerk and we'll have it.
Okay. Good too. I'll just conclude by saying that, we all love children. We have nothing against Imagine School. We just like to be located somewhere else, basically. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good morning. My name is Larry Whittemeyer. I live at 665 Carriage Lake Way. Whatever the merits of this school may be, there are some adverse impacts that just stay on the page and just don't seem to go away. I will address 4 of these: safety, compatibility with the surroundings, adequacy of this site, and the economic impact on the county budget. First of all, safety. We've heard many points of view regarding the safety aspects of the traffic that will be generated on 4th Street and in Pine Tree Park along those unpaved roads to access the north entry to this school. So I thought to myself, I think I'll go over there and count cars. Not a very scientific traffic study, but I went over there one day and counted cars on a Tuesday afternoon from 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock. Roadways, somebody said 19 feet wide. Actually, the roadway there, the paved roadway, is 20 feet wide. I measured that. And right by the entrance to this proposed school. And I was amazed. I thought, 20-foot wide road, not too much traffic, kind of quiet over there. But 62 cars went west and 63 cars went east. And when I say cars, I'm including vehicles like landscape trucks with very wide trailers behind them and truck cranes and things like that traveling on that street. And it brought into focus for me all the issues that people are talking about walking on that road, bicycling on that road, driving on that road, turning left into the school, turning right into the school. I think there's going to be a lot of activity over there, and I think all of it has a potential adverse impact on safety, the safety of the students, their parents, and the staff coming and going in that area. Number two, the compatibility with the surrounding land uses. As you've heard, there's a farm, there are residences right around this area, and I would say no matter how high the berm, how many trees you plant, and how wide the buffer might be, there's still going to be a visual impact on the immediate neighbors to this property, and maybe neighbors set back a little bit further than that. The lighting, somebody explained, will not go away. That will be there. The glow will be there. It's well and good to have the direct light shining into your bedroom window, perhaps not being permitted by a certain kind of shield on the globe, but that whole area will be lighted up. The third, adequacy of this site to accommodate this facility. In taking a look at this off the back of my property, I look over on the expanse of space there, and then I compared that to the drawings of what's proposed there. The numbers of buildings that are proposed to go in there, some connected, some separate from the others, the roadways, the driveways, the parking areas, the small recreational area. And actually, you've got 12.4 acres to put all that on. There's a 5-acre retention pond there that takes up the 5 acres of the total 17.4 that are available. I just think this is a very tight fit for this particular tract. And finally, the economic impact on the county budget. People have spoken here and said the immediate impact will be perhaps non-existent in that this is being paid for by a benefactor from other times, other places. I look down the road a little bit and I think about the secondary expenses that the state may incur, and some of those have been alluded to here, particularly the road improvements on down past the western boundary of this property, sidewalks, traffic signals, turn lanes, emergency access, and sadly, vehicle accident investigation. I conclude with this idea. Questions and concerns flavor many of the facts. They say there are a lot of merits to having this type of school in the county. More answers are needed, more study is needed before this particular site can be decided upon, I believe. There are other sites available, other options to be considered, and a better site to be found for this particular school to suit the needs of the students, faculty, administration, and the parents who will be using this school. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak against this project? Please come forward.
Good morning. Renee Renzi, Waverly Place, Vero Beach. I wasn't going to talk on this topic at all, but listening to all the concerns, they've been 100%, well, 99% about traffic. When Mr. Bowling made his original presentation, he spoke of buffers and turning lanes and so on, and the first phase being a cluster of classrooms. And my immediate picture was of portables clustered on a space that eventually will be several clusters, obviously. Only one person before me has raised this question. What are the architectural plans for this site? Is it going to be a space filled with clusters of portables? They're ugly. They're usually referred to as temporary. The advertising for this school, as a previous speaker has said, was supposed to have them open in the fall. The Imagine School peoples themselves have said they can build schools so much cheaper than our Board of Education can build them. So the whole picture to me comes up as cheap and temporary. Now, if you think there's a need for a cheap and temporary school campus in the county, you'll approve it if you can overcome the traffic problems. But I think the public should be clearly aware of what would be approved if you approve this, cheap and temporary. Thank you.
Next.
Good morning. My name is Yale Dampier. I live at 555 61st Avenue. That's in the Diana Park subdivision. I'm not against school choice, and I don't think many of us are. But one of my concerns is there's no room on that facility for a septic tank system for that school. Does the county have plans to bring sewer to that facility? And secondly, you talk about a lot of pedestrian traffic and bicycle traffic. What are the plans for them to cross 58th Avenue? As you know, that's a very dangerous intersection. And thirdly, charter school has mentioned the timeline. They have a tight timeline to get this done. What constitutes us to give an exception for lack of planning for that timeline? Fourthly, as was stated before, the houses westbound on the north side of 4th Street, they're on the road. And if it does deem necessary to widen 4th Street westbound, is the county prepared to purchase those houses? And how will that affect us as taxpayers? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello, good morning. My name is Charlie Wilson. I live at 1057 6th Avenue in Vero Beach. I think I can give you some information that will weigh heavily on some of the testimony that you've heard so far today.
Are you speaking against?
I'm sorry?
Are you speaking against?
No, ma'am.
Okay, that's what I'm calling for right now.
Oh, okay.
Anyone else? Yes. We're going to finish. We've already heard for. We're going to hear against.
Oh, I was waiting for because some of the information I have to give is really important information for them.
We'll get back, but we're going to finish up this side.
All right.
Against, please. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Karoche Jambanko. I live at 325 Farley's Court. There's not much more to add. Some of my neighbors are already done. I think they are covered. About 5 years ago, when I made the choice to move out west of town, was the reason why the area over there was so quaint. You got cows, you got horses, you got the peace of mind, what everybody wants. And that's what I did. I built my dream house across the street, and now to think that someday I would be faced with this dilemma of having a school. One of my neighbor made a statement, you build neighborhoods around the schools. You don't just put a school around the neighborhoods. And, you know, what I would like for all of you to think about is the school's name Imagine. I'd like for all of you to imagine this in your backyard, you know, right in your neighborhood. So before you make a decision, a place, think about it. We all pay a lot of taxes. We build some very large homes, and think that we were secured, in this area, away from everything else. Seems like anymore in Indian River County, we're not secured for anything anymore. A lot of things coming in, big shopping center, big roads, big this, so you never know where peace of mind is coming anymore. And I've been here almost 30 years, and a lot of you, they know me for a long time. And it took a long time to build what I wanted to build, and now that's just what we're faced with. So before you make your decision, think about it very hard. Think if it was in your backyard, in your neighborhood, right across the street from you, and think about it. We all put a lot of money and a lot of sweat and work to build what we did. And by doing that, you're going to decrease our value of a property. And if you look at a record right there across the street in Los Damic, you will find that some of the highest paying taxes, in the neighborhood. So we really appreciate it if you can really think about it very hard before you make up your decision, and think about it. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen of the commission, I'm going to try to make this really short. I don't want to go over all
all the ground that everybody else has covered,
we have
although
your-
I do wish.
Can we
that
have
I
your
had
name and
taken-
address, please, for the
Oh,
record?
sorry. Cynthia Bolton, 565 61st Avenue. I live in Diana Park. I wish I had taken pictures of what 4th Street looks like west of where this school is going to be. Because the canal is right on the road, it's very narrow. I'm not going to, you've heard it over and over again. I almost just wish I had taken some pictures. I am not against, first and foremost, against this kind of school. I am an educator. I'm only here today because I'm between semesters. My husband is an educator. However, when we chose the property that we built on 15 years ago, we specifically chose an area where we wanted to have a little bit lower stress. When we built in to where we did, there was a orange grove next to us. Now, we did understand that there might eventually be residential property in there. I would have never guessed there would be a 700 plus school being put next to our development. And no matter what kind of berms or fence you put there, our house is 2-story. Our bedroom is going to be overlooking this school, and it really scares me in a way that they want to put this in so quickly, which means it is only going to be portables. I can't see how they can put anything in quite that quickly. This whole project feels railroaded to me. We got a notice probably only about a month ago about the meeting for this school. We got it after the meeting, so we couldn't be there. We could not be there for when we only got it about a week in advance that there was going to be a special exception with the county zoning board. This is a special exception. We are not asking you to take away the school's rights. However, it was, when we moved in there, agricultural. And then it got changed to residential, which was fine. But this is a special exception, and we would have never built there. And we feel it will very severely affect our lifestyle. Most of the people on Diana Park do not have children that are school age. Our daughter is college age. So there's not going to be too many of the kids in our particular neighborhood right next to it going to, because they just don't exist. So we ask you to really consider this special exception. The school needs to find a different place to go. There are plenty of properties in this area that are much more appropriate for what is going to be built there. Thank you very much.
Good morning. Anthony Galanto, 430 61st Avenue. I'm a recent transplant to Vero Beach. I decided some years ago to buy the property that I thought was going to be abutting more homes. Now, if this passes, we're going to be abutting a large school. I love schools. I'm highly educated, I think, and I find that if Imagine Schools is in so much favor of doing good for children, that they'd really consider what they're doing, because I've raised 3 children. Half the time they don't listen to me. That's just the nature of the beast. I walk on 4th Street every day. It's part of an exercise routine. I've literally had to dive out of the way of cars on that street because there is no sidewalk. Children are not going to go the long way. If they live on 4th Street or close to 4th Street, they're going to take 4th Street. It's just an accident waiting to happen. There's no way. I can't reiterate this. I've listened to the other people, and they're all right. And it's just too bad that they're putting it where they're putting it. It's something's bad's going to happen, and it sounds like we're beating a dead horse. I know that, and I just hope you folks don't do what you're going to probably do and give a free school in a location it shouldn't be. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Chris Crawford, 6336 4th Place. How y'all doing? If this school were serving the children around the neighborhood in the area, I think it would be a great thing. But Glendale serves our elementary kids in our neighborhood. we do need a need for middle school. I am really concerned about the traffic through our neighborhoods. This is one area of our county that is unlike any other. It's separated from urban areas to the north. It's not in the urban service area. It's pastoral, it's agriculture, it's peaceful living, and it's got a good balance of green space, living. People get along. We're happy. Lots of children. So I did not receive a notice. I just started researching Imagine Schools about a week ago, considering to perhaps my child could go there. But I think we have a choice the first year, but after that it's a lottery system, or I'm not sure you can, I don't know that we're guaranteed to even attend this school, and it's less than a mile away from our home. So I believe that students from around the county are probably going to attend this school because most of our children attend Glendale. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Last call. Okay, thank you. The process now is that we will have Mr. Barquette, if you have any rebuttal and answering to the questions, and I see where we have Mr. Charlie who wants to speak to, but
Thank you. I'm still Charlie Wilson, and I still live at 1057 6th Avenue. How are you today? Thank you very much. Sorry I went out of turn. I guess should I pay more attention? I think I have some information that may help some of the people in this room. I do some work for Imagine Schools. They're a great organization. I'm pleased to do it. But more than that, the reason I'm involved in this particular issue is that my daughter is the president of her senior class, graduating this year from the charter high school out west of town. I'm very grateful for the education which she's received, and I agree with many people, the residents here, that stood up to talk about the excellence in education that can be offered by this choice of schools. To answer a couple of quick questions, I'm sure they'll come up. Imagine Schools is a school of choice. It is not portables. It is constructed. It is safe. It is a good neighbor. It is green. It is all of those things. If we did, parents take their children to this school because they choose to take their children to this school. They are not going to take their children to a school that has immense traffic problems, or endangers the safety of their children, or isn't join the rest of the charter schools in this county as giving an A+ level of education. This is a private school education at tuition free, just like public schools. But the main thing is there's been a lot of questions here. We've had 2 meetings of all the neighbors. We sent invitations to 1,000 of the neighbors. The first time we had 56 people in attendance, and a lot of them had the same legitimate questions that all these fine folks had. We were able to answer them. We were able to show them the photographs of the buildings. They're excellent buildings. They are not portables. It's a lovely design. The second meeting, there were 200. There have already been close to 200 people who have signed up without even seeing a building, because they need this quality of education that we can bring, this organization can bring to this county. Unfortunately, a lot of the people who would be telling you how much they want this school are in school today, and their parents have already taken them to school today. We have talked about some wildlife worries. I understand that. It didn't come up in planning and zoning, but we're working with some of the local contractors here to make sure that we provide just an excellent school for environmentally. We've talked about traffic a lot. The students that are coming to Imagine Schools are coming to another school right now. I mean, the traffic, instead of the traffic going to Imagine Schools, they're going to Osceola, or they're going to other places where there are traffic patterns and there are less safety features. This school has more safety features, more turning lanes, more sidewalks, and more safety for students than any of our current public elementary schools. But the most important thing that I want to add, because truly all these are wonderful people and they're our neighbors. And many of them have gotten up and said how wonderful it is to have a charter school. We just need to have a charter school somewhere else. Often they say, you know, we need to build it where there's no neighborhoods. The problem with that is that are we going to build every school in the future out west and by the urban services line, so we're going to end up busing kids from the beach west? We can't do that. Neighborhood schools belong in neighborhoods. That's why this site was chosen. One of the reasons that this site was chosen. Frankly, it's an excellent site. Frankly, it's very near where students are. Is it safer? Probably. What about students that are being bused out west of town? You know, that's dangerous. You know, it's better to have a school closer to one's home. But here's the most important thing and a piece of new information that you don't have. And I think will be important to all the people that spoke very eloquently here earlier about their properties. The fact is, the reality is that there is no alternative. It's not because you don't have an alternative. Of course, you're the county commission. You can do whatever you want. The problem here is, let me make sure that I kind of frame this for you with new information. The problem is that the state of Florida issues a contract to Imagine Schools. That contract expires at a specific time. The reason that this is important and the reason that this is at this site is there is no alternative site. A lot of the folks here probably don't understand. That's why I tried to get up out of order, sorry, to explain to them that I'm sure that we could sit a long time and talk about alternate sites and whether there might not be better sites. But the fact is, by no fault of yours and by no fault of Imagine Schools, we are faced without that alternative. The fact is that if we turn this down today, the contract will expire, the county of Indian River County will lose $34 million in value, more than the Piper contract, by the way, to show you how important this is. 100 employees and subcontractors who would be building this school all summer will have no jobs, and 50 permanent jobs at this school will not happen. It is not your fault. It is not Imagine's fault. It is a problem with getting the approvals for contracts between the state and the school board that has put them in this position, where for them to be able to bring this wonderful thing to Indian River County, where all of us should band together to get the most important is we've got to have a place for 400 students. 400 students want to go to this school, and the only thing they're waiting on, frankly, commissioners, is your help. And it's unfortunate that we're in that position, but the fact is just that if we need improvements, you know, the school will make them because they're a competitive school. They have to do it better, and they will do it better. And lastly, they simply are good neighbors. When we go forward, we don't want the neighbors angry. We don't want the neighbors to have difficulties with lights. We want these neighbors to send their kids to our schools. You've heard the expert testimony of the traffic engineers. We have the planning and zoning asked us in phase, because there's 2 phases. It's not 750 students. There's 2 phases. That if we find that there's a problem with turning, we have to solve it. So just so that you understand, and I'll be happy to answer any questions, it is not a mandate put on you by Imagine not making enough planning or a crisis. It simply is, frankly, it's a crisis for our county. And if I was to blame anybody, I would blame out of town. But the fact is, that's what we're facing. We're facing whether we agree to a charter school today at 4th Street and Southwest to serve those students, accept a $10 million savings to the taxpayer, employ 100 people plus unknown number of subs and other businesses that desperately need it, 50 jobs permanently, and educate 400 students. And we need your help to do that. Thank you.
Mr. Barquette, do you have anything to add to answer some of these questions raised?
If you have any particular questions you want me to answer, please let me know. I'll go with some of the ones that I heard.
Okay.
First of all, let me just clarify some of the misconceptions. This is in the urban service area. So One of the speakers said it was not. That's not true. There seems to be a misunderstanding about what a special exception is. A special exception is not a waiver or a variance from your code. A special exception is just really, it's unfortunate terminology in your code. Special exception is nothing more than a conditional use, which is a use that's permitted with certain conditions attached to it to make it compatible. One of the things your code says is conditional uses should be controlled as to number. Well, that's logical in a situation like this because you probably wouldn't want two elementary schools right next to each other. If they were permitted, you couldn't prevent that. So please don't, I think you guys have been up there long enough, you know that a special exception is not a waiver, it's not a variance, it's a permitted use under the law. So we're not asking for any special consideration here. Third, there's a lot of talk, I agree with Mr. Wilson, I don't have any ill feelings against the people who spoke against this project. The most honest one said they're worried about their property values. I don't understand that because property values go up in a district with a good school. They're more desirable. Property value is a function of demand versus supply, and the supply of good schools is dwindling, and property values go up in an area with a good school. That's just a fact. There was a gentleman that asked about 6th Street being a paper street. That's really not anything we can address. If you guys want to abandon 6th Street, that's okay with us. It's really not it's not on our property. We don't care. Do what you want. I did take offense at one comment. One of the speakers said this is going to be cheap and temporary. Well, you know what? Whenever I get up and make a statement, I've got to support it with facts and studies and proof and evidence. That speaker had absolutely none of that. This is going to be not cheap. It's going to be over $10 million. It's going to be site-built construction to the current standards. It's going to be first-quality construction. There's not going to be anything temporary about it. So I do take offense at some of the comments that are just made because they maybe think they sound good or come off like a soundbite. The project does have public water and public sewer. There's no septic tanks. In fact, we'll be running the sewer line. That'll be made closer to any other residents that need to tie into it, so that'll be a public benefit. The lights, that's easy. Lights are turned off at night. This is an elementary school and a middle school. Other than when there's a function, which are over early because these are young kids, the lights are turned off at night. And I think I forget who spoke, but said that the 99% of the comments were regarding traffic. And that's true. And one of the speakers said, well, why are they talking so much about traffic? He said, they must know it's going to be a problem. No, what we know is that people are going to try to make it into a problem. We don't do traffic in the abstract. And you shouldn't consider traffic in the abstract. What you consider is what the experts tell us. So here's the way the process works. We submit a traffic analysis. Actually, it even starts before that. We meet with your traffic engineer and say, here is the analysis we're proposing. Your engineer says, here's how I want you to do it. We come back and say, okay, how's this for an outline of how we do it? He says, great, that's how it needs to be done. We do the traffic study. We submit it. Your traffic engineer, who's Chris Mora, thank goodness he's still here, then has to decide whether that traffic analysis will support the project or not. Your traffic engineer has supported this project, has said that traffic analysis passes scrutiny. It meets all the public health, safety, and welfare requirements of your traffic code. Now, what does that tell you? Well, one of the things you can glean from this traffic study is that the left turn movements when you're going east are going to be approximately 9 during the peak hour traffic situation versus 32 eastbound traffic movements. So there's only 9 left turns versus 32, 9 left turn movements going east versus 32 going west. It's not a traffic hazard. Adrian Dubkowski from Kimley Horn is here, and I think he would like, if you don't mind, I'd like to let him come to the microphone and address traffic. But I also urge you, if you have any questions about special exceptions, to discuss it with your staff. What I've given you is what the law is, as I understand it. And if you have any questions about traffic, please talk to Chris Mora. But do not assume that we're just doing this in the abstract and we're just throwing a facility willy-nilly someplace where we think it's unsafe. And finally, one last thing before I turn it over. There has been a lot of information and misinformation that's been presented to you today. It would be reasonable to delay this if you would like us to address that in more detail, and also to give Commissioner Davis an opportunity to address this. We would be amenable to a continuance of 1 week, not more than 2 weeks. In fact, that might be a desirable thing, so that if you want to have some questions, you can formulate them. If we want to prepare a better presentation or address some of the new information that came up, we can do that as well. So if a continuance is something that you think would be appropriate, we would welcome that. We would like Commissioner Davis's input, and we'd also like the opportunity for you to have some specific questions and for us to come up with some specific answers. Thank you very much. Mr. Wheeler, were you going to say something?
No, the only thing I was going to say, if we were going to do a continuance, I think it would have been advisable to suggest that prior to...
Well, I mean, quite frankly, I didn't want to waste the people's time that came. They've expressed their concerns. Commissioner Davis could watch this on tape if he wanted. And secondly, we didn't really know that there was going to be so much, I don't want to say misinformation. I want to say, well, I do want to say misinformation that was thrown out that we might need to address. Thank you.
Adrian Dubkowski with Kimley Horn and Associates, 601 21st Street in Vero Beach. I just wanted to cover some of the traffic issues that have been raised. First off, the traffic impact study is prepared for peak season, and to come up with the trip generation for the school, we utilize the Institute of Transportation Engineers, or ITE, trip generation manual, which is kind of like the Bible, if you will, when you're coming up with different sites and what uses are going to be on those sites and how we come up with the trip generation for that. And the second step is to go in and formulate a distribution. And the way that the distribution is formulated in this case, consistent with the county requirements, is to utilize the Florida Standard Urban Transportation Modeling Structure, or the VSUDMS model. And that takes a look at different populations, how different traffic analysis zones are used now, whether they're residential, retail, and how they would interact with other distribution zones. We come up with that, then we take a look at an aerial, which we did in this case, to see where the rooftops are. And it was presented by staff earlier. You can see the majority of the rooftops were to the east. This is our site here. This is 4th Street. And you can see that this is the portion west of the site that would utilize this school. And you can see the remainder of all the rooftops to the east. And you can see that overwhelmingly a majority of the traffic will be coming from the east, which is consistent with the VSUDMS distribution that we have come up with. And when we sat down with the county in our pre-application meeting, that was also consistent there. And when you look at that and consider laying out the trips that we're generating, you'll see that the eastbound left, there's a nominal conflict. In the AM peak hour, you'll have 15 vehicles making a left into the site, and the opposing volume, it ends up being less than a vehicle per minute. When you want to do a left turn lane, you need to look at what the volume is of traffic that's going to be that you're generating versus what the opposing volume is going to be. And you can see in this case that it's the opposing volume is less than 1 per minute. And based on the county's requirements for a turn lane, we don't meet that requirement. For the right turn lane, we do, as consistent with our distribution. The majority of the traffic is going to be coming from the east, so we need to do that eastbound right turn lane. For the roadway, the peak hours of the roadway are from 7:15 to 8:15 in the morning. That's pretty consistent with when the school students are going to be arriving. In the PM peak hour at 4th and 58th, the road peaks at 5 to 6 p.m., and the school would discharge anywhere from 2 to 4 p.m. So you can see that the PM peak is not consistent. So you're not going to be adding more traffic onto something that's could be perceived as being over capacity, which again it's not. When we look at the existing conditions and then look at our site on top of those conditions and background growth invested projects, we maintain an acceptable level of service at all the study area intersections under AM and PM conditions, and there's also sufficient concurrency available on 4th and 58th. Brought up by some of the opponents were issues with accidents in the narrow of the roadway. We looked at the past 5 years accident history at the intersection of 4th and 58th, and there was no accidents that were documented that were on 4th Street. And some of the issues were also raised that you're going to create some conflict points with vehicles entering and exiting. Well, since the majority is coming from the east, when you make that right turn in and then when you're exiting out, you make a southbound left out, you're not really conflicting. It's not as if you'd be making movements against each other. You're actually kind of flowing together in a manner of a couple. I think that pretty much sums up.
Excuse me, Madam Chairman. Bottom line, Adrian, is it safe?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. At this point, I will close the public hearing. And Will, do you have a summation or wrap-up for us before I ask the other staff?
Yeah, there's an issue of what is a special exception. And it is not a permitted use, but it's a use that is permitted if certain conditions and criteria are met. As Mr. Barquette said, it's not a variance. It's not something that requires waivers. Uses like schools are anticipated in residential areas, but they have to be controlled as to the location and the number, how they're set in the community. And in order to be approved as a special exception, they have to meet certain general criteria and certain specific criteria. The general criteria for special exception is, are they consistent with a comprehensive plan in the zoning districts? And they are. There's another general criteria dealing with compatibility with surrounding land uses in terms of traffic, drainage, nuisance impacts, lighting, appearance, and how it generally impacts the character and stability of the surrounding area. A general finding is required that it doesn't have adverse impacts on the public health, safety, and welfare, and that it will promote orderly development. If you find those general criteria have been met, then there are also additional specific criteria with respect to educational institutions, and those are set out in page 76 through 79 of your agenda item that the staff has laid out each of the special conditions, and their determination is that all the specific criteria have been satisfied. So I think generally Mr. Barquette was correct in how he laid it out. It's not a permitted use, but it's not something that requires variance. It requires findings that the conditions that set out in your code for all the various criteria that are related to schools have been met. And it's for you to judge whether the general criteria with respect to consistency with the plan and the zoning districts and the impacts on public health, safety, and welfare and orderly development, et cetera, have been addressed.
Thank you, staff. Stan or Bob? Okay. Any questions? We'll start with...
Yeah, just for Bob or Chris Moore, 4th Street is part of our grid system, and what are our future plans for 4th Street there, and what are any options we have? Can we move the ditch, or...
Chris Mora, Assistant Public Works Director. Currently, 4th Street is a two-lane paved collector road. We do not have any plans in our 5-year capital improvements program to improve 4th Street beyond that. Now, we do have some plans when we pave 66th Avenue south from State Road 60 down to Oslo Road. We'll be improving all of the intersections along the way, including 4th Street. We'll be adding left turn lanes in all 4 directions and putting in a traffic signal. But in the vicinity of the school, we don't have any plans to do any widening other than the applicant will have to put in a westbound right turn lane, and possibly in the future, if the warrants are met, an eastbound left turn lane.
Okay, so from the western boundary of the school to the proximity of the intersection at 66th Avenue, we don't have any current plans to do any improvements to 4th Street? Okay.
Mr. O'Brien, could I speak to that for a second?
Yes.
In the area on 4th Street west of here near Pine Tree Park, an issue came up maybe 8 or 10 years ago with respect to Murphy reservations, which the county had. What those are land that was lost for taxes in the 30s, was sold back to get it on the tax rolls, but the state reserved road right away 100 feet on either side of center line. Those reservations impacted a number of houses in Pine Tree Park, and after some lengthy hearings, the prior board decided not to exercise its rights to utilize that and perhaps severely impact houses that were already constructed in Pine Tree Park. And I think the discussion at that time centered around if and when 4th Street was improved going west, it would either have to be a lane constructed on the south side of the ditch, like 20th Avenue is near here, with a lane on either side of a drainage ditch, or 4th Street would have to be culverted, as has been done in some other locations.
Right, and in fact, when we widen 4th Street to add the left turn lane over at 66th Avenue, that's exactly what we'll be doing. We'll be culverting a portion of that drainage ditch.
Okay. Is there any option going forward if some of the traffic concerns that have been expressed today come to fruition? Is there any way to make that link of 4th Street a one-way avenue going one way or the other to minimize the back and forth, because it is a narrow road?
Unfortunately, no. The way our grid operates is it's planned as a two-way grid of streets. So, no, we would not be able to do a one-way section.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Fleischer?
Madam Chair, thank you. Just two brief questions. One of Stan. Is there any projection plan display of concretables, portables, temporary buildings on this site that I have missed?
We don't have any specific regulations with regard to architectural standards and so forth. The standard that would apply in terms of our code is the building code. Now, with the site plan submittal, we have conceptual floor plans and architectural elevations which show that it is site-built construction and even tile roof, sloped roofs and such. But we don't have any architectural requirements. The requirement that applies is that it has to meet the building code. What conditions that they can live with respect to architectural or type of construction, I think they would have to offer that.
Well, now that you're here.
Well, it's Bruce Moy again. Wanted to go back to the road, if I might. I'm not the architect, but I've seen the building plans, and it is a very beautiful building. We're improving the 4th Street from pretty much 58 to about 300 feet west of our property. If the county comes in from 66th Avenue, they're going to improve that intersection and come back probably about as much as 58 or 4th Street comes off of 58th now. If the warrants are met before the second phase, that section between 4th Street, between 66 and 58, will be pretty much 100% improved to current standards. We were just looking at the map here. If we have to build that turn lane, if it's warranted, which is the condition that P&Z imposed on us, it's going to be pretty close to being, due to the length of a left turn lane, it's going to be pretty close to being, if not all the way, improved.
Excuse me.
From 66 to 58. We're looking at the map right here, and the distances are pretty close.
Chris?
Well, the section that we would be widening to a 3-lane section east of 66 would only extend about 600-700 feet east of 66th Avenue. If you combine that with the section of 3 lanes that's already existing at 58th, and then the additional right turn lane and possibly a left turn lane, I still think there's still a significant portion of that 1 mile between 58th and 66th that would have to be widened. So,
you think that's a mile or a half mile?
It's a mile.
It's a mile. Okay, it's a mile, not a half mile. I'm sorry. We thought it was a half mile looking at the map, but it would be a very significant portion that would be improved to current standards if it's warranted. It would be a very significant portion.
But Commissioner Fletcher, you're right, while we're up here, what was
ask-
your question, sir?
Again, Mr. Buckett, the same question for you. Is there any concretables, portables, or buildings that would be misconstrued or envisioned to be that type of temporary building?
Yes, sir. No, I didn't understand the first term you used, portables. What did you say?
Portables, concretables.
I don't know what that term is. Concretable?
Prefabricated
Let me bring up
buildings, off-site structures that will be rolled in.
Mr. Cascon.
If I could address that for you, sir.
Thank you.
No. The answer is no. There are no plans to put any concretables, portables, ICS construction, or other on the site. It's a full permanent structure. We all have seen elementary schools with portable farms. That's one of the things that Imagine Schools is pulling away from, and one of the options when we talk about choice, parents don't want portables. We have no intention of putting portables. We typically build on about a 10-acre site. This is a larger site for us, which is why we have that really nice play area in the back. No plans at all for portables. What we would rather do in lieu of putting portables, if the demand is there and the school were to just get overrun right in the beginning and fill right up, is we would go find another school and build another school. That's the way we're doing it. And right now we already have potentially, internally, we have plans for a second school on the corner of 69th and 58th for that reason, because the demographics bear that out.
Just to clarify, because there were inquiries and statements that this is a 100% on-site built location.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Yes.
Commissioner Wheeler?
Yeah, I have a few questions. Chris, how soon are we looking at paving 66th Avenue and 3-laning 4th Street?
Well, we're doing 66th Avenue in stages. The first stage that we want to get under construction this year will take 66th Avenue from State Road 60 south to 16th Street. We're still working on the plans to continue that. We have to cross the main relief canal and continue south. So we're looking at probably a year or two away from beginning construction of that next phase south of 16th.
Would the next phase take it to 4th?
Yes.
And you seriously think we can, when you say start on that phase, are we talking design, or are we talking starting construction on paving?
Well, the design is underway, so when I say beginning, I'm talking about beginning construction within the next year or two.
So you really think in 1 to 2 years we can start paving, building 66th Avenue south to 4th Street?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. Thank you. Another question, eastbound turn lanes. I think, personally, I'm not a traffic engineer, and I know what Bruce says, that, the experts have told us what to do, but no disrespect, but I don't always agree with the experts. As I drive around these cities and see what the experts have done, sometimes traffic doesn't run as smoothly as we plan on it running. I would like to see both turn lanes in with this. The other thing is a concern I did have that I think was answered by Commissioner Fletcher's question on the site build. I like the idea that it's going to be site build, an attractive building. Also, just a question, I'm curious. This has happened very rapidly, and they're going to have a building permit to move forward with this. Have they got a building permit, and how do we get one so quickly? I talk to people trying to build houses, sometimes it takes 3 months.
I'm Bob Keating, County Community Development Director. One of the allowances that the county has is that applicants can do various processes concurrently, and what they did is they submitted for a building permit a while back, and the permit's been reviewed. The permit cannot be issued until we actually release the site plan, which would mean you would have to approve it today, and they would have to get all jurisdictional agency permits, and any pre-construction conditions would have to be met. So the bottom line is they submitted for a building permit early, and there's been a concurrent review, and that's not unusual.
Okay. Next question. If they chose to come through the Board of County Commissioners, now, if this is turned down, do they have the option to, as a school would do, to go in and build on this property without our approval?
I think as Stan indicated, there are two processes that schools can follow. The standard policy that the school district follows is going through the interlocal agreement, whereby there's a special committee that looks at the school. It's not a public hearing, it's not a special exception use. But when their district schools are put in the district's 5-year facilities plan, and the district has their own mechanism for getting input. In this case, if this were turned down, there would be no prohibition for Imagine going back to the school district and going through the state process. I think one of the issues is their charter extends only until the August deadline that they have. So they would have to do something regarding that. But they could opt to go through the state/school district process.
Yeah, when going back to the turn lane again, and also 4th Street, I know I drive 26th Street frequently, and I'll tell you the traffic there has increased tremendously, and the telephone poles are probably within inches of the edge of the pavement. I know there's been several accidents there recently. One did take out a pole, and that's a big concern I have on 4th Street too, as traffic increases. And I know there's not a lot of traffic west of there after you get past 66. But as I imagine right turn lane going westbound into this, and I imagine a car turning in left, and then another car coming out and wanting to go eastbound from the site, and then one car waiting to turn left. And with the amount of traffic when school starts and people are dropping their children off, that one car could be held up possibly for several minutes or longer waiting for traffic to, so they can turn left in, and they're going to be holding up traffic going eastbound. And there's a pretty good density immediately to the west of the school site.
Well, that's one thing that we look at real closely with these school sites, is to make sure that they have adequate queuing or stacking distance, particularly for the parent pickup loop. And in the case of this school, they have quite a distance around the pickup loop, and then they also have an extended distance on the roadway leading north from 4th Street. So if you add all that distance up, we think that there's going to be plenty of stacking room for people to be able to pull in off of 4th Street, whether they're coming from the east or the west. But one thing that works in their favor is that the traffic projections that they've made show that there's only going to be less than 10 or so vehicles coming from the west to make that left. So.
And I have no idea how you come up with 10 cars making that left turn. But it only takes one car. And mine isn't so much the stacking as it is the fact that you've got a car coming this way that wants to turn left if it's one student coming, and you've got cars that are turning left off a turn lane where they've got rapid access, so to speak. So this car is going to have to wait for the right turn lane to clear before he can make the turn. And then you've got people that have dropped their children off and they're coming back out to make a left turn to go east. That car is going to set, holding up traffic west of it until it gets a clear path to complete that left turn. And I really think at a minimum a left turn lane needs to be in there. I know the numbers don't fit according to this, but I still think that left turn lane needs to be there.
Well, and I think that's one of the concerns that planning and zoning had also. That's why they added that monitoring condition, so that if there are congestion problems, such as the type that you're mentioning, that can be monitored, and if there's a problem that the applicant can address it.
Well, the other thing with the monitoring, and say a year or two out from now, you're just going to have more problems because now you're going to be tearing the road up to put a left lane in, and even create more inconvenience to the people in the area and the people driving their children off to the school if it's approved. So, Bruce?
Thank you. I respectfully disagree with you, Commissioner Wheeler, but...
That's not unusual.
No, it is. It's surprising, too. 2 men of goodwill. But I make it a condition that we put the turn-in lane for Phase 2. We don't even do the monitoring. Just make it a condition. Before Phase 2, we have to put a turn lane in. I mean, certainly we'll know if it's necessary, but we'll agree to that condition. I mean, that's expensive. People don't know when they put that blinker on that they're using a $300,000 or $400,000 turn lane, but that's what we think it'll cost. If If that will help us get approved, well, let's agree to that condition.
Thank you, Bruce. On the positive side, I like the fact that they're spending a lot of money that taxpayers don't have to spend. And I think competition's not only good, I think it's healthy. And I think charter schools do a good job, and nobody here that I've heard has opposed the charter school itself. And the concept's good. So those are my questions and my comments.
Thank you. I have a few too. Safety, of course, is paramount, period. But for information before I get into the 4th Street, if this school is not in session by the fall, do they run out of their deadline? I'm not clear on that. If you're not up and running.
We have a contractual agreement with the Indian River School District to approve charters for 2 schools. And what we're going to have to do on the North County site, which has been delayed, is renegotiate that contract with the school district. If for whatever reason the district decides not to renew or renegotiate that contract, they can shut us down. We plan to have the school opened in August. We built a school in Lake County in 105 days. We have a construction schedule that works if we're not delayed, and we have contingency plans. That's a long answer. The short answer to your question is that if we're delayed, we have a plan to continue, and we should be able to operate without a problem. If we're delayed for an extended period of time, the district could shut it down contractually.
I'm still not getting a clear picture of this. It would be, I would think, almost a miracle for you to be open and running with concrete buildings, block buildings, or whatever we're talking about by the fall, because you have to have teachers in there. You have to have a lot of things going on. So what is your contingency plan then?
We could temporarily work in a different off-site location and still be open.
And where would that be?
We are looking at several different options. We don't have anything that I can lock us into.
So where does that leave us? You would come back and ask us again to look at your contingency plan? I'm asking staff now.
Right. The site plan approval process that they're going through, that's part of the special exception. The special exception allowance does not sunset unless you all attach some sort of timing condition to it. The site plan is good for 12 months, and within that 12-month period, they either have to ask for a 1-year extension or actually pull permits and begin construction. It's conceivable, of course, that they could begin construction even if they're meeting somewhere else. So the site plan that's before you all is for kind of the worst case, most impacts, both phases built out. That's the way it was analyzed. If they get approval with their site plan, it's good for 12 months, and all they have to do is begin construction before that 12 months is up, and then continue construction, and that locks in their site plan approval.
Okay. Because I anticipate with the construction we have done recently, we run over, even in the very best plans and the very best builders and architects. So you would anticipate having school start in another location?
We would anticipate starting on time at our location. If for whatever reason a hurricane came through, something were to happen, which is very possible, there's the possibility of starting session in a different location temporarily for several weeks or a month until the CO is granted for the on-site location. Does that clarify?
Not exactly.
Please, if I could help you clarify, what am I missing?
You're missing that I think that probably you don't have a contingency plan that's in concrete. Is that correct?
No, this is what we do. We have 52
then,
schools nationwide, and this is what we do.
Okay, then I am missing what your exact contingency plan is. I think you're looking for a place to...
We have several options, exactly.
Okay.
But I don't want to, on the record, announce exactly where that will be until we've made a final decision. We're still 4 months out. We don't have to have that concrete yet. Exactly which location we'd select.
I'm trying to see if you'll have to come before us again before
they
an
will.
exception.
They will. If it's, let me give you several scenarios. If they are looking at moving into a location that's not an approved school location, right, and it is in the unincorporated county, they would need to come back to you.
Right.
If it's in the city of Vero Beach, they'd have to deal with the city. But they can't just plop down on any site, they're going to have to meet the same criteria they've got here or use a site that's already approved for a school.
May I ask?
Yes.
Couldn't they take one of these strip plazas that, for instance, is, and I'm asking, I don't know, that's commercial, and go in and rent several spaces and put a temporary school in there? Is that what, looking at something like that? I mean, they wouldn't be looking at building another site because it wouldn't work if they couldn't get this one done.
You're correct. They could go to a location where a school is a permitted use and not a special exception and get a staff level site plan approval if they had the parking and infrastructure and so forth. That is a possibility.
But there isn't a place for like 500 to 750 people that I can think of in any facility here except maybe Modern Age. I don't know. That's in the city.
Recommending site plans.
So I'm just wondering exactly where we are here. The other thing is 4th Street. The drop-off and delivery is intense during certain hours of school beginning and school ending. But there's also delivery of, I assume you're going to have a cafeteria with hot meals, or there's also deliveries, there's trucks, there's all kind of things going on when you're an active school site.
Absolutely. Yeah, there'll be, and all that has been planned for. There's a warming kitchen, not a full kitchen. There's a warming kitchen on site. There's a multi-purpose room where the children will eat. I mean, all that is there. Yeah, it's all in the site plan for you to look at. If you're interested, we could provide the.
Well, I'm thinking traffic and turn lanes and.
Staging, yeah.
I think I can respond to that. When Kimley Horn and the applicant did their traffic study, they used standard rates for schools. And all of the teacher trips, delivery trips, special trips, not just parent trips and buses, but all of the trips associated with the school are built into that rate.
But this is not only an elementary school. This would have to be built into a middle school and elementary, which is much greater traffic than just an elementary school, right?
But I think they're proposing a K through 8.
Which is a middle school and an elementary school.
And that is the rate that they used when they prepared their traffic study.
Plus, Commissioner Bowden, the road at the school site and for 300 feet beyond the school site is a full 100 feet. That, I don't know if you've driven it recently. The road has been widened from Kings Highway all the way to the school site right now, and we're going to widen it beyond where it is now for another 300 feet. So it's not the 4th Street that the people have been discussing to you, or is not the same dimension as adjacent to our site. It's a full 100 feet right of way, and the trucks that you're talking about will not be necessarily during peak hour, peak season. And there's plenty of room. And I mean, some of them will be, of course, but you know, you can't say all deliveries are going to be between 6 and 8 in the morning.
No.
And there's plenty of room for that. And virtually none of them will be coming from the west because, like you said, there's nothing out there. They're going to be coming down Kings Highway.
Right. Okay. Any other questions of staff? Well, this is a dilemma. But I will accept a motion if there are a continuation if you want all 5 members here.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
In looking at all of the testimony today, and there was some good support and good dissension of having the school there, and some of it was evolving about the backyard. And for the record, most of my adult life has been spent within 300 feet of a school. And I have never had any of the objections that I've heard, and this was in a very congested inner city and sometimes in a rural area. This is the first time in my life that I'm not living opposite or adjacent within 750 feet of a school. I think we do a great job here in Indian River County, and the sheriff does a great job in policing the school areas, and the schools have been run by the school board in a responsible fashion. And couple that with what I know of Imagine Schools, I believe their commitment, and I believe that when the future principal of the school, if it does go forward, said he will be hands-on, and I heard some objection. That's what we want in a principal, and that's what we want in a school. And I think that's what we have in some of the other schools that we detracted upon today, schools that I know that at least 2 commissioners here that their children have gone to those schools. And I think there's far more positive to be pointed out than the negativity about something that's going to be bringing some economic vitality, education opportunity, and appeal to a community. And with that said, I'd like to make a motion to support the P&Z's decision along with their concerns, staff's recommendation with all of the concerns, and attach Mr. Barquette's addition of the left-hand turn lane being incorporated, and I believe that has at least answered most of the objections that were evolving about traffic.
Do you have a second?
Just for clarification, Madam Chair, is that the left turn lane, is that part of Phase 2 or part of Phase 1? What was your motion?
I believe it was Phase 2 that it was purported by Mr. Barquette, and that was my motion.
Okay. Madam Chair, I'll second that motion, and maybe one addition if Commissioner Flesch would consider is, I think, pending the ongoing traffic studies here, if it's needed, I think that they need to not only do the turn lane, but any road improvements on 4th Street all the way to 66th Avenue, just to make sure that we do address that before we load up more use on this.
Chris, do you have anything to report on that?
Well, yeah, that's a project, again, that's not in our 5-year plan, and we would have to look at right-of-way issues. We know that on the north side of, or along 4th Street, we currently have about between 31 and 35 feet of right-of-way, and in addition to the 30 feet of drainage district right-of-way south of there, I believe we do have some unreleased Murphy Act reservations along the north side. I know, as Will mentioned, some of them we have released, but that could be an issue with the widening in 4th Street.
Yeah, my point there, Chris, is as you pointed out, even if we do the 66th Avenue intersection improvements, we do the turn lane, there's still a pretty significant half-mile gap or so of not very good road.
Right, and I understand that. I'm just not sure how we would quantify whether or not that's needed based on the school's existence. Right now, it's running at about between 15 and 20% of capacity. We think that with the school's additional traffic, it's still going to be 20 to 25% of capacity. So I don't know how, if we were to attach a monitoring condition, I don't know if that's what you're recommending, Commissioner O'Brien, but how we would actually know if the need for the widening is triggered.
We probably couldn't have that as a legal condition, because any exaction like that, a roadway improvement for almost a mile, is required to be roughly proportional in nature and extent to the impact of the development. And if the traffic analysis says they're putting so many trips on, and Chris has just said it's running at 15% of capacity now, I don't think we could legally defend such a condition.
I'd like to ask a question for a condition too. The traffic turning in and out both ways. I know at the high school, which is congested and in a neighborhood of some sort, they have personnel out there directing traffic. Can we have that put in as a condition? That a live person has to be out there directing traffic, or personnel. How does that work?
I know that's something that typically the sheriff's office wants to have their personnel do.
No, this is students they pay to do at the high school.
I wouldn't recommend having students out there.
Well, they do that and have been doing that for years. They're trained students, for sure. But I don't know that stacked traffic, is a good thing. And the sheriff's office, fine.
Well,
but I'm saying a personnel,
right,
can that be part of the requirement?
But I believe the applicant did, I think, Bruce, didn't you mention that they'd be willing to put a police officer out there if the need arose?
Yes, sir, the principal mentioned that, and I think that's fine. I think the sheriff's deputy does it anyway, and if that doesn't happen, I think we'd be willing to agree to that condition.
For the morning traffic and the afternoon dismissal traffic.
Yeah, would you be amenable to, if the sheriff's deputy doesn't do it, then we would.
Required.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
But you might have to be required to pay the sheriff's deputy.
No, I understand.
Right.
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention real quick, that's a great idea, and it's done at schools all over the nation. I just wanted to mention that if this goes back to the, I hate to call it the monitoring condition, but if it's not warranted and someone's just standing out there doing nothing, including the sheriff's deputy, I think there's a better use of the deputy's time. I think we might want to look at that reasonably, leaving that in the judgment of the principal to say, yes, deputy, you're just kind of standing out here doing nothing. But if it is warranted, he will absolutely require that.
Well, I would imagine 750 students that are, and I doubt you're going to bus very many.
That is very much market driven. If buses are needed, then there will be buses. So, but I just want to make sure that, we don't just mandate.
No, I'm not being a foolish woman, no.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Madam Chair, I'd just like to make sure I understand. The motion, as I understand it, I hope, is that both turning lanes will be a part of Phase 1?
No. That the left-hand turn lane will be part of Phase 2.
After the monitoring?
That's correct.
Would you be willing to amend your motion to make the turning lanes, both of them, part of Phase 1? Mr. Barquette said they'd be willing to do that.
No, what I said we'd be willing to do is make it Phase 2 without any monitoring required, because we really don't think it's going to be necessary in Phase 1, especially if we have a sheriff's deputy out there. But if it makes you comfortable, before Phase 2, we'd be willing to commit to that. And that was the motion. We'd really like to see it like that, because I just hate to throw that money away. I honestly do.
Well, I understand that, but I also think that we're creating a burden in a neighborhood with traffic, and I happen to believe that schools, churches, child care centers belong in neighborhoods and surrounding neighborhoods. So, philosophically, I agree with locations of these type of facilities, but I also want to know that not only the safety but the convenience of people that are driving that. And I can see, I drive 33rd Street, and you stop at the stop sign, there's not enough traffic there to warrant a traffic signal at 33rd and 58th or 60. But if one car is making a cross-traffic turn, like northbound if they're going eastbound, I've seen cars, as many as 15 cars back up waiting for access to turn. And you're going to have a high traffic area at the time, particularly in the morning when people are leaving, more so in the evening probably.
But I think you're, all due respect, I think you're ignoring the fact there's nothing west of here. They're not going to be coming from the west, Commissioner. They're going to be coming from the east.
Well, one gentleman said he counted 62 and 63 cars an hour.
Sure, and he doesn't have an approved traffic study. And I'm sorry, you make us go through this for a reason.
He probably knows how to count, though.
Well, I don't know if that. I don't know. We had another woman say it's going to be cheap.
No, come on, please. We're all getting tired.
Commissioner, with all due respect, we've agreed to the condition that Commissioner Fletcher has put forward that we'll put it in at Phase 2. Respectfully request not to have to put it in at Phase 1. There's just no evidence to support the need for it.
And time frame for Phase 2, what is that? What does that depend on?
I think it's going to be demand driven, is my understanding.
Okay.
So.
Well, the only thing I can add is if you want my support for the motion, I want to see the turn lane in there. Otherwise, I'll vote against the motion.
Commissioner, I've just been told that would just kill the project, so I can't, I just don't have authority to agree to that. I apologize, but I don't.
I don't understand what would kill the project if you're spending $10 million and the turn lane's $40,000.
400,000. One of the considerations, Commissioner, also is
please, I haven't recognized you. Would you please?
It's the construction time. That's the problem.
We're not getting back into the public hearing. That's over. We have a motion on the floor, and we have discussion going on up here.
Well, Apparently, the thing I wanted to add to the motion, staff has indicated that we can't legally enforce it, so I'll withdraw that. So my understanding is the motion is staff recommendation with the left turn lane as a requirement of Phase 2. I can support that motion. This obviously is a very, very hard decision. Certainly understand a lot of the local residents, your fears of how this might impact your lifestyle. I look at this, we are in the urban service area. I think if we didn't put a school in where everybody said they didn't want a school, we would never have any schools put in. And I think we do need neighborhood schools in our neighborhoods. I think the school will come in and be a good partner. I think they're already showing they're working hard to address your concerns. I know as a parent, when my wife and I with our children have moved over the years, the first thing we did is check in that community where the best school was and told the realtor, find us a house in that neighborhood. We wanted to be near the good schools. So I think your values will hold steady, your values will hold strong. I think there'll be demand for homes near a good school. And I just think as we move forward, if the traffic does become a concern, we'll work with the school, with the community to address those concerns and make sure that this is a safe, viable, and successful school for the entire community. So I do second the motion and support it.
Okay. I am certainly in favor of schools, and I am certainly in favor of choice. I understand the concern of the neighborhood and the time frame that this project is going forward. I anticipate you do need a miracle for you to be on this property and open your school doors at that time. So I probably think, in all actuality, that you're going to be looking for another site to, temporarily before this is completed. But I am in favor of this. We are going to monitor it very strongly, be very aware of that. And from this point, I will call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Passes 3-1 with Commissioner Wheeler opposing. We'll take a break. we can come back to order, please. I have two items that have been pulled. Item 10.2, consideration of Harry Tanner's request to formally designate a 1.3-mile segment of Old Dixie Highway south of CR 512 as a historic road, memorandum dated April 21st, 2008, pages 106 to 223. And that has been pulled.
No, actually, let me give you a little background.
Okay.
I'm Bob Keating, County Community Development Director. With this item, I think you know, staff had to give affected property owners 30 days notice, and we did send out notices more than 30 days ago to the surrounding property owners. At that time, we did not know that Commissioner Davis was not going to be at this meeting, and Commissioner Davis is the board's liaison with the Historic Resources Advisory Committee. So what we would recommend is that you continue this item till next week. But because there may be some people here that want to speak on the issue, you may want to open the public hearing and then continue it to next week. And I'll let Will address that if he wants.
Okay. While we're waiting for Will, I also want to announce that we have had another item pulled, public item B, public discussion items, request to speak from Fred Meensing regarding repeal of CN Carey resolution as per item 13A, 22, April 2008. And he will be doing that next week. He had a previous commitment. Now, back to item 10.2.
At a minimum, you'll have to open this public hearing and continue it so that we don't have to re-advertise.
Okay, thank you. At this point, I would like to open the public hearing. Anyone like to speak to this item? Seeing none, we will continue it till next meeting, which is the date?
May 6th.
May 6th. Thank you very much.
You need a motion for
Do we
that,
need a
Madam Chair?
motion to continue?
Do we?
Yes, you do need a motion.
Move to continue to May
Second.
6th.
All those in favor of continuing?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Next item is 10.3, proposed ordinance amending code section 913.102B3 to lower the AM best rating requirement for maintenance bonds from A+7 to A-6. Memorandum dated April 23, 2008.
Madam Chairman, this was discussed at a meeting a couple of weeks ago, and you asked me to bring forward the amendment. It's very simple. On page 226, it's simply lowering the best rating of maintenance bonds from A+7 to A-6. That's the total change. But it is a public hearing.
Yes. As soon as it quiets down a little bit. Anyone, I'll open the public hearing. Anyone wish to speak to this item?
Good afternoon, Commissioners, Madam Chair. I'll make this brief because I think Will spelled it out fairly clearly. In trying to obtain a maintenance bond, the level of A+7 we found out was virtually at this point almost impossible to obtain unless you were already under a bond that was of a higher level, of a higher amount. If you just called up cold and said, I need an A+7 maintenance bond, we couldn't get it through any of our local insurance or bonding agencies. And I made several calls to try and get backup on this. So, in other words, if you're looking for a secure rating on the best rating schedule, anything from B+ up to A+ was considered secure. The vulnerability didn't occur until you got to a B and a B-. So I feel if we're going to an A-6, you're not only in a secure area, but you're actually in an area where you feel secure with the amount of dollar value that would be there in a view of a national catastrophe of some kind. So I feel that we're still in a very safe area, and I think that we're still in a good solid area to where we're maintaining this maintenance bond for 3 years instead of 1 year. So I'd just like to see the rating adopted so we could obtain it cold without having a large project already under construction. So I would ask that you accept the A-6 rating. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak to this item? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Do you have a motion?
Madam Chair, before I make a motion, I did have a question of Mr. Collins.
Okay.
Mr. Collins, will this have any surety adverse effect upon the county for future projects?
I don't know that a change from A+7 to A-6 is going to have a substantial change. I don't like bonds, period, because they're much more difficult to collect on than a letter of credit. Letter of credit, you simply present a site draft and the funds are wired. I'd sent you a memo last week as part of the backup, and we do have more security for longer periods of time because we've extended our subdivision improvement security to not only public improvements but also private roads and drainage systems, and we've extended it from 1 year to a 3-year warranty period. So we are dealing with more issues of maintenance security for longer periods of time. My own preference is letters of credit. They're cleaner. The banks will typically collateralize their letters of credit, whereas the bonding companies rely on their investigations into the strength of the companies that they're underwriting, and the lower the rating of the surety company, the less effort they put into that, the less time they're willing to spend qualifying their customers. The difference between A+7 and A-6 is probably not substantial. It would accomplish the goal of Mr. Paladin having smaller developers able to get the bonds, but my personal preference is letters of credit, period, rather than bonds.
Madam Chair, with that said, I'd like to make a motion to approve the proposed ordinance amendment, which would move the basic requirements for the maintenance bonds from A+7 to A-6.
Do you have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. Thank you very much. A public hearing to amend sections 303.33 and 303.35 of Indian River County Code to allow demolition, inspection, and reinspection fees to be set by the county resolution and adopt resolution for demolition inspection fees. Memorandum dated April 21st, 2008, pages 231 to 235.
Madam Chairman, this ordinance amendment was requested by the Health Department. They conduct inspections before properties are demolished, and then after they're demolished, they have reinspection fees at some times. Right now, the fees are set by ordinance, and they've found that the costs of doing the inspections are higher than the fees. And what they propose to do is amend the ordinance so that the fee can be set by resolution of the board. Rather than going through the ordinance amendment procedure, they'll come to you and ask for resolutions to be passed to set the fees more in line with the costs as time go by. What they're proposing now is to demolish a single-family home. The inspection fee would be $75. Commercial structures up to 3,000 square feet would be $100, and commercial structures over 3,000, $150. To reinspect would be a $50 fee. And also attached to this ordinance is their proposed resolution establishing those new fees that I've just read. So if you could open the public hearing and take any input.
Thank you. Yes, the public hearing is now open. Anyone like to speak to this issue?
I just came today to I'm Cheryl Dunn with the Indian River County Health Department. If you had any questions, I'm here to answer them for you.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Do you have any? Nope. Seeing none. Thank you for coming, though.
I'm sorry.
Public hearing closed.
Madam, move that we adopt the ordinance to amend Code Section 303.33 and 303.35 and to adopt the resolution as presented.
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Public notice items, notice of scheduled public hearings, May 6, 2008, Quail Ridge, Inc., request to amend the text of transportation element of the comprehensive plan to remove segments of 61st and 65th Streets from 74th Avenue to I-95 from county's extended roadway grid map, figure 4.10. Memorandum dated April 18, 2008, 237. And we have departmental matters, community development, request for authorization for the board chairman to sign a Department of Community Affairs, Indian River County Community Development Block Grant, CDBG agreement, memorandum dated April 18, 2008, 238 to 239.
Move staff recommendation.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Number 2, condemnation, demolition, and removal of unsafe structures, memorandum dated April 16, 2008, 240 to 252.
Move staff recommendation.
Second.
Any questions?
Just, Buddy, all the property owners have been properly noticed with certified mail, and everybody was aware of this action?
They have, yes, sir.
Thank you. No further questions, Madam
Thank
Chair?
you, buddy.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Utilities Services, Grand Harbor, Spoonville Marsh, Archaeological Survey, final pay, memorandum dated April 11, 2008, pages 253 to 256. May I have a motion?
Staff recommendation.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Thank you. On to Commissioners' matters. I think, Commissioner O'Brien, you have one?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. This is a bit of good news. As you all recall, a couple months ago, we finally approved and got signed up for the Caremark prescription card program, which is the card the residents can get in the county. It's free to all county residents. What it is, they present it when they go to get a prescription filled, and the pharmacy either gives them the discount provided by the card or the pharmacy price, whichever is lower. And I just got an update on this. I think it's great. We've only been using it for a month, but we had 111 individual users, and they submitted 221 prescriptions, of which the pharmacy card was cheaper 73% of the time. So that's
good news.
It's great news, and the average price savings was 20.8%. So just as a reminder, all the residents, these are free. There's a lot of locations. You can come pick them up, and the county commission office is one location, and it looks like it's saving our residents money, which I think is great at this time. And I just wanted to bring that up to let people know it looks like it's working and working well.
Good. Thank you.
That's all I have. Thank you, Madam.
Great.
Commissioner Wheeler, I think you have an item.
Yeah, I just am asking for clarification of the motion that was made April 15th for the Board of County Commissioners meeting regarding impact fees.
We have a special call meeting scheduled May 9th at 9 a.m.
Very good.
Do you have a problem with that?
Nope.
Good.
We were.
Is it a special call or is it a workshop?
No, it's a special call.
It is, okay, because the original email was to schedule a workshop.
Yeah.
Well, it's a special call meeting, and the email is there.
And what's the date of that again?
The 9th.
May 9th at 9 a.m.
Got it.
Thank you.
Any
Thank
further
you.
discussion?
Nope.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.